Chapter 73. Pa. Just as everyone was stunned by Yunjian's somersault and the precision of her technique, the sound of a basketball landing on the floor after it had entered the basket was heard. Yunjian reversed the ball and scored easily. The referee blew the whistle. Xinjiang Town High School won the first round. The crowd went wild. They won. They won the first round. The first round of the competition had only started for less than 10 seconds, and he had already won. The person who ended the game so quickly was Yunjian, whom everyone thought would drag Xinjiang Town High School's team down. It was the girl from grade 3 to 6, Yunjian. After winning the first round, the second round soon arrived. There was no doubt that when Rui's team had Yunjian. Even when two opposing basketball players tried to stop her, she managed to evade them and shoot. How could they lose? In the second round, Zhang Jun's team lost their momentum first. Soon, Dongjiang Town High School's team lost 2 consecutive wins. Xinjiang Town High School's team defeated Dongjiang Town High School's team in seconds. This was unprecedented. Winning in such a short time was something that had never happened since the annual friendly basketball match between the two schools. Now that Xinjiang Town High School had won 2 rounds, there was no need for a third round. Amidst the cheers and applause from the whole school, Zhang Jun's team ran away with their tails between their legs. Yunjian, you're amazing. Hee, did you see how Zhang Jun ran away just now? TSK. Don't mention how funny it was, ahahaha. Wu Kuei and the rest walked toward Yunjian. Wu Kuei laughed heartily. Once he recalled Zhang Jun's arrogant face, he felt relieved. After so many days of interaction, they had already treated Yunjian as one of their own. Yunjian did not care about trifles. She did not have the gentleness of a woman. The basketball team treated Yunjian like a brother. We've won the game. Just for this, we should celebrate. Since it's Friday today, let's meet at the usual place after school, Although Wen Rui did not show his emotions on his face like Wu Kuei, it could be seen that the excitement in his heart was not small. The usual place naturally referred to the rock bar. I won't be going, Yunjian said with a smile and a press of her lips. How can you not go? You're our main character today. Before Wen Rui could open his mouth, Li Xiangyi spoke first. My mom's bringing me to Longmen City tomorrow. We shouldn't stay out too late tonight, Yunjian explained softly. The few of them stared blankly for a moment before nodding in agreement. Qin Yiru was bringing Yunjian to Longmen City on Saturday morning. That was right. She could not stay in this house any longer. With Lu Lanhua around, Qin Yiru and the other two would have to move out sooner or later. Qin Yiru did not want to go back to her maternal family because she could tell from Qin Junlan's attitude towards her. Coincidentally, Qin Yiru had a close friend in Longmen City who was a high-ranking official. Now that she had nowhere else to go, Qin Yiru thought of going to Longmen City for help. They had not seen each other for years after all. Since Qin Yiru married Yun Gang, the chances of meeting her friend had decreased. She did not know if they would still help her after so long. Her best friend was Qin Yiru's best friend when they were in high school. They were so close that they could talk about anything. Qin Yiru's results were excellent back then and she was admitted to DE High School like Yun Yi. Chapter 74. Early the next morning, Qin Yiru took Yunjian on the bus to Longmen City. Following her blurry memory, Qin Yiru gritted her teeth and took a taxi to Longmen City's affluent street. Just as its name suggested, the people who lived here were either rich or powerful. Qin Yiru's best friend was a high-ranking official, so her family was rich. Qin Yiru was actually a little embarrassed to come, but she was now forced into a corner. She had thought of everything she could think of, so she could only brace herself and come to her rescue. Gritting her teeth, Qin Yiru made up her mind to knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Qin Yiru knocked for a while but no sound came from the house. Standing aside, Yun Jian could not help stopping Qin Yiru's hand when she saw her mother pounding on the door with all her might, telling her, "Mom, the door is soundproof. You won't be able to hear us if you knock like this." As she spoke, Yun Jian pressed the doorbell beside the door and smiled sweetly at Qin Yiru. "That's how it should be." "Oh, there's such a thing." Qin Yiru did not know about this. She was stunned before she nodded. Look at her. She was old and could not keep up with the times. Just as Qin Yiru finished, the villa's door was opened and a fashionable woman in her 40s appeared before them. The woman had a voluptuous chest and a slim waist. Although she was in her 40s, she took good care of herself. She looked like she was in her early 30s. In comparison, Qin Yiru had half a head of white hair while wrinkles crept up the corners of her brows. As she grew older, she was beginning to gain weight as well. Shower Wan. When Qin Yiru saw the woman for the first time, she felt a lump in her throat and called out, "Yiru?" When Dong Wan saw Qin Yiru for the first time, she could not react in time. It had only been 5 or 6 years since they last met, but Qin Yiru had changed so much. Her face was old and wrinkled, and her body was getting fatter with age. How was she still the youthful, beautiful, and energetic girl? Dong Wan felt a stab in her heart. She reached out to caress Qin Yiru's calloused hand. Her tears were about to fall. "What's going on?" "Yiru, it's only been a few years since we last met. How did you end up like this?" Dong Ruan's tears fell immediately as she spoke. When Qin Yiru thought about what had happened back then, she couldn't say a single word that she had prepared. She couldn't help but cry. The two old friends who had been separated for a long time hugged each other tightly. To explain why Qin Yiru was so out of control today, it all started back then. Back then, Qin Yiru decided to give up her studies and drop out of high school so that her brother could marry her sister-in-law and her sister could marry into a good family. Moreover, her family was not well off. As her best friend, Dong Wan was strongly against it. At that time, she had a huge argument with Qin Yiru. In the end, Qin Yiru went back to town to get married. It was also from then on that Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan's relationship gradually faded. However, the two of them still kept in touch. Until 5 years ago, when Yun Gang lost a huge sum of money in gambling and was being chased for repayment. Naturally, Qin Yiru's family could not afford such a huge sum of money, so Dong Wan paid for her family. Of course, Dong Wan advised Qin Yiru to divorce Yun Gang immediately. She said that Yun Gang was unreliable. Qin Yiru refused and wanted to give Yun Gang a chance. Hence, the two of them had a huge argument. Although Qin Yiru had a weak personality, she would never turn back once she set her mind on something. At that time, Dong Wan was forced into a corner and said, "If you continue living like this, Yun Gang, this bastard, will cheat on you sooner or later. When that time comes, it will be too late for you to regret it." It was because of this sentence that Qin Yiru and Dong Wan suppressed their anger for a few years. Both of them were stubborn and neither of them was willing to give in on this matter. Hence, they completely broke off contact with each other from then on. Qin Yiru knew that Yun Gang gambled, but she always believed that Yun Gang would never cheat on her. It was also because of this that she continued to live with Yun Gang. However, she really didn't expect that Yun Gang would really cheat on her. Chapter 75. After listening to Qin Yiru's brief recount of what she had been through all these years, Dong Wan was both angry and heartbroken. Dong Ruan's personality was different from Qin Yiru's. She was impatient in everything and was a classic career woman. Listening to Qin Yiru, she was gritting her teeth in anger. Yun Gang is a jerk. Yiru, I've told you long ago that Yun Gang and his family aren't good people. You didn't listen back then. Dong Wan was actually quite pissed when she said that, but there was a hint of disappointment in her tone. Yiru, you should have come to me long ago. How can I not help you when something so serious has happened? Dong Wan said earnestly. It was only then that Dong Wan noticed Yun Jian, who was standing beside Qin Yiru. This is your Xiao Jian, right? She's all grown up now. I remember she was only 10 years old back then. She's grown up so quickly. She's in junior high now, right? Dong Wan patted Qin Yiru's shoulder, not bringing up the sad past with her. Qin Yiru wiped her tears and smiled through them. Yeah, Xiao Jian is in Xinjiang Town Junior High School now. As she spoke, Qin Yiru patted Yun Jian and gestured to Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, she's Mom's best friend. Come, call her Auntie Dong. Yun Jian looked at Dong Ruan and greeted politely, Hello, Auntie Dong. Dong Ruan's kindness to Qin Yiru was not an act. Yun Jian could see it in Dong Ruan's eyes. Eyes did not lie. Dong Wan was genuinely concerned about Qin Yiru. Oh, good. Good. Yiru, your child is very sensible. Dong Wan could not help praising with a smile at Yun Jian. After that, Dong Wan and Qin Yiru resumed their conversation. The two of them hadn't seen each other for a few years, so they naturally had a lot to talk about. As she spoke, Dong Wan turned to ask Yun Jian, Xiao Jian, since you guys are leaving that home, why don't you move to Longmen City? You can stay at your Auntie Dong's house. Coincidentally, you're in the 3rd year of middle school, and you're about to take your middle school exams. Your Auntie Dong will transfer you to number 1 middle school, okay? The teaching standards of number 1 high school are guaranteed to be top-notch. Qin Yiru had just told Dong Wan everything. Since Qin Yiru wanted to divorce Yun Gang, her home was still Yun Gang's property. In this way, Qin Yiru had to find another place to live. Dong Wan gave it some thought, thinking that her family was in trouble anyway, so she volunteered to have Qin Yiru and her family move to Longmen City. Qin Yiru was also very grateful for Dong Ruan's help, but they were old friends after all, so she didn't say much. Moreover, Dong Wan could send Xiao Jian to EE. Number 1 high school's teaching standards were quite good. It was the best junior high school in Longmen City. Many parents tried their best to send their children to number 1 high school, even forking out large sums of money, but it was all in vain. Xiao Jian's grades were poor, but she could definitely improve her grades if she went to number 1 high school. Qin Yiru and Dong Wan had come to an agreement. Dong Wan was here to ask Yun Jian if she was willing to transfer to Longmen City. After all, the child's approval was very important. Transferring schools meant that they had to enter a new environment and reintegrate into a new group. Especially now, transferring schools in the middle of the 3rd year of middle school, she might not be able to fit in at school. Yun Jian was taken aback. She had planned to move her family to Longmen City, but Dong Ruan's suggestion was a perfect fit for her. I'm okay with it. Yun Jian nodded with a press of her lips. Thus, the matter was settled. Screech. At this moment, the sound of an emergency brake suddenly came from the courtyard of the villa. A black and dazzling limited edition sports car drifted on the spot and stopped right in front of the few of them. The sound startled Qin Yiru. Cars were rare these days, let alone a sports car. What's more, the car did an emergency drift just now and stopped in front of them without missing a beat. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes in thought when the car door opened and a tall figure stepped out from the driver's seat. The person's face came into focus. Handsome, deep, and unfathomable. Yun Jian was stunned when she got a clear look at the person. Chapter 76. Ce glanced at Yun Jian with his deep eyes and was slightly taken aback as well. He was surprised that the girl he met by chance the other day was here, but his expression remained unchanged. As the tall silhouette walked over, Ce glanced at Yun Jian with his almond-shaped eyes before moving his lips at Dong Wan. Auntie. Auntie? Yun Jian was stunned as well. The man's nonchalance after killing and forcing Enchantress who ranked 10th on the secret agent leaderboard to retreat the other day was proof that he was unfathomable. She did not know the man's identity. However, she knew that someone who could make Enchantress yield was definitely not a simple person. Such a person was actually the relative of her mother's best friend? As she thought about it, Ce had already walked past them and entered the door without looking back. Soon, his slender silhouette disappeared from everyone's sight. Dong Wan smiled awkwardly at Qin Yiru and Yun Jian and explained, "This is my sister's child. He's lived abroad for many years and has only come back for a few days recently. This child is familiar with people." "Yiru, don't be offended." "Why would we be offended? The child is quite handsome, he looks a little like you, Xiao Wan." Qin Yiru was not offended as she covered her mouth with a grin. Dong Wan and Qin Yiru soon brought up endless topics. Standing there, Yun Jian was not in a hurry. She merely frowned slightly. She thought about it but could not figure it out, so she stopped thinking about it. In the afternoon, Dong Wan insisted that Qin Yiru and Yun Jian stay for lunch before returning to Xinjiang town. The mother and daughter could not resist her enthusiasm and stayed for lunch. After that, Yun Jian did not see Ce again. After lunch, Yun Jian and Qin Yiru returned to Xinjiang town. She heard from Dong Wan that she would help Yun Jian with the school transfer procedures in the next few days. She had a lot of connections in Longmen City, so she would inform Qin Yiru once the procedures were done. After that, Yun Jian and Qin Yiru moved out of that house and moved to Dong Ruan's house temporarily. Yun Jian could not tell Qin Yiru directly that she had the money to buy a house in Longmen City. All in all, everything would be fine if they moved to Longmen City first. Qin Yiru was reluctant to leave Xinjiang town because she was moving. She had been bidding farewell to her neighbors for the past few days. She even reminded Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, your Auntie Dong said that the school transfer approval will probably be approved next week. You'll be staying in Xinjiang Town Junior High School for another week, so you should bid farewell to your friends properly. Don't forget to mention this to the teacher." Yun Jian nodded and replied, "I know, Mom." She did not know how to bring it up to Lu Fian since she was about to transfer schools. Lu Fian was the original owner's best friend and she treated her well too. Yun Jian saw Lu Fian as a friend from the bottom of her heart too. Lu Fian would definitely be reluctant to let her leave. As expected, when Yun Jian told Lu Fian about it, the girl actually cried and laughed at the same time. "Xiao Jian, it's a good thing to be able to transfer to E High School directly. Even the students at the bottom can get into the second best foreign language high school in our city. You have to study hard when you're there. Don't cry." Yun Jian did not know how to comfort her, so she passed Lu Fian a tissue to wipe her tears. In the end, Yun Jian winked at Lu Fian. "Study hard and we'll get into E High School together." Lu Fian did not say that it was difficult to get into E High School this time. She clenched her teeth and smiled through her tears. "Yeah, Xiao Jian, we can get into the same high school a year later." At the same time, in the office of the school building, one of the teachers, who was sorting out the test papers for the last month's 5 school joint examination, exclaimed in disbelief, "Full marks. Full marks again." This student from grade 12 class 6 had taken 4 exams and scored full marks in all of them. Oh my God. Chapter 77. In the classroom, Lu Fian had yet to recover from the shock. She pretended that she was not sad anymore because they had promised to enroll in the same high school a year later. However, how could she be truly happy when her best friend who had been hanging out with her for so long was transferring schools? In spite of it, she was still genuinely happy for Yun Jian that Yun Jian could attend E High School in the city. After all, a high school like E High School was a place that others could not attend even if they wanted to. It was great for Xiao Jian's future and her studies that she could attend there. "Hey, the results of the monthly test for the 5 schools are out. I heard that the person who got first place in all 5 schools is from our school." A student who was more well-informed in the class boasted with his head held high, as if he was the one who got first place in the 5 schools joint test. As expected, the entire class's attention was drawn to the student's words. "Hey, is that true? The first place in the test organized by the 5 schools is from our school?" This has never happened before. One had to know that the 5 schools this time included number 1 middle school. High School is the city's senior high school and they have a lot of top students. I heard that the best ones in High School are close to full marks. Is there really someone from our school who can get first place in all 5 schools? You're bluffing, right? Unless there's someone in our school who got full marks in all the subjects. How can such a thing happen? Someone in the classroom did not believe it and retorted to the student who was well informed just now. Pfft, you're right. This student from our school really got full marks in all the subjects. It's the talk of all the teachers in our school now. The student who had boasted just now replied boastfully. It was as if he was the one who had earned this great honor. In spite of it, no matter how well informed the student was, there was no way of knowing who the student who got first place in all 5 schools and got full marks in all the subjects was. For a moment, everyone in the classroom was talking about this topic. Wow, Xiao Jian, that person is amazing. He got full marks in all the subjects. He even surpassed those abnormal geniuses in first high school. Lu Fian, who had finally adjusted her emotions, said a few words to Yun Jian. Her eyes were still filled with admiration. Yun Jian only slightly pursed her lips, a deep light flashing in her eyes. He got first place in the 5 schools, not the 2 of you. What are you so proud of? Wang Ruru was waiting for Yun Jian's bad results to come out so that she could mock her. Otherwise, she would not be able to hold back the anger she had suffered before. Perhaps because LV Fian was Yun Jian's good friend, Wang Ruru couldn't help but run over to mock LV Fian. By the way, Yun Jian, I saw that you only spent 10 minutes on the test paper the other day. What were you doing? Was the test paper too difficult? Sai, why don't you do the questions properly every time? How can you get good results with this attitude? Don't tell me you're going to embarrass our class again. Wang Ruru turned to look at Yun Jian in disdain. Wang Ruru, do you have nowhere to vent your farts? I'm talking to Xiao Jian, how am I bothering you? LV Fian could not hold herself back and retorted on behalf of Yun Jian. Chapter 78. What do you mean it's none of my business? Lu Fian, how can you say that? Wang Ruru was not a good-tempered person. She retorted immediately after Lu Fian said that. As she spoke, she sneered and said confidently, I'm the class committee member. Yun Jian's grades are not good, so I'm here to ask her to study harder in the future. Is that wrong? As Wang Ruru spoke, she puffed up her chest as if she was speaking the truth. However, Lu Fian and Yun Jian could tell that Wang Ruru was here to pick a fight. Hey, you! Lu Fian was also sullen. Before she could say anything, a classmate ran in from outside the door. The classmate said with a bitter face, "The form teacher is here. The form teacher is here." She's still holding the Chinese monthly exam papers. Oh no, I didn't perform well in this exam. What should I do? Every time the results of the monthly exam were released, there were always some who were happy and some who were sad. There were students who did well, and naturally there were students who did not do well or did not perform well. However, some students who felt that they did well were full of anticipation when they heard that. Yun Jian sat in her seat without any change in expression. Wang Ruru and Lu Fian's argument naturally stopped. When the teacher arrived, all the students ran to their seats and started class early. Teacher Jean was wearing a pair of old Beijing cloth shoes with a smile on her face. Even the nervous students could clearly feel Teacher Jin's happy mood. The results of this monthly exam are out. Teacher Jean stood on the podium and spoke to the class casually. However, her eyes kept glancing at Yun Jian in the corner. Everyone knows that this monthly exam is a joint exam between 5 schools. It's very difficult. As she spoke, Teacher Jean narrowed her eyes and purposely kept them in suspense. There's a student in our class who did very, very well. Teacher Jean did not continue. She purposely kept them in suspense but did not point it out immediately. Alright, let's distribute the Chinese test papers first. Those whose names are called, come up and collect your papers. There's no ranking. As Teacher Jean spoke, she took out a large stack of Chinese test papers and called out their names one by one. Zhou Xiaoshan, 89 marks. Yang Lei, 67 points. Wang Ruru has improved a lot this time. She scored 108 points. Everyone, please give him a round of applause. Teacher Jean continued to report. Wang Ruru, who had been called out, stood up. As the representative of the Chinese class and having been praised by the form teacher in front of the entire class, she instantly felt that she was very impressive. She raised her head arrogantly and walked towards the podium. Wang Ruru's full score for Chinese was 120 points. After deducting the necessary points for her essay, Wang Ruru's score of 108 points was already considered very high. When she passed by Yun Jian after receiving the test papers, Wang Ruru deliberately spread out the test papers so that Yun Jian could see the 108 marked on her test papers with a large red fountain pen. There was no need to mention how awesome he looked. It was as if she was afraid that others wouldn't know that she had scored 108 points. Chapter 79. When Teacher Jean said this, everyone only had one expression, disbelief. Lu Fian, who had been worried about her monthly test results, was stunned. Wang Ruru, who had just been praised by the teacher for her good results, was also stunned. The whole class was so shocked that even their breathing stopped. The person who had been rumored to be particularly amazing, who had surpassed the group of abnormal straight-A students in the 5-school joint examination and obtained the highest scores in all 4 subjects, was actually Yun Jian, who had always been ranked at the bottom of the cohort. No, this was impossible, right? Was today really not April Fool's Day? Impossible. This is impossible. She got full marks in all 4 subjects. This is impossible. Wang Ruru shrieked, still clutching her 108 test paper. Then, Wang Ruru shouted with an even more exaggerated expression, during the examination, she clearly only did the papers for 10 minutes for each subject. How could her answers be all correct? There must be a mistake. Yes, there must be a mistake. She cheated. Teacher, she must have cheated. Wang Ruru's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She felt that what she had said and done to Yun Jian before was laughable, and it wandered around the tip of Wang Ruru's heart. However, Wang Ruru's nonsensical words had a different meaning in the ears of the other students. Yun Jian only did the papers for 10 minutes? Oh, they remembered. During the examination that day, Yun Jian had only done the papers for a while before lying down to sleep. But why did she actually get the highest scores in all 5 schools? Could it be that to Yun Jian, these papers that gave them endless headaches, she could get full marks just by casually doing them? You also said that I only did the papers for 10 minutes for each subject. How could I cheat? Copy from other students? Are their results as high as mine? Or copy from a book or a notebook? Is 10 minutes enough for me to copy the answers? Yun Jian was not someone who could sit still while others slandered her. She stood up and used her words to give Wang Ruru a cold blow. Teacher Jean coughed, obviously agreeing with Yun Jian's words. After all, as the form teacher of Class 6 and a language teacher, she had at least a few decades of teaching experience. It was clear at a glance whether the students had cheated or written their own answers. Moreover, as Yun Jian said, she had cheated. How could she have cheated? Copied from others? There was no student in the class who could have such good results for her to copy. Even if she copied from the textbook, she would not be able to get full marks in all 4 subjects. To be honest, when Yun Jian's results came out, Teacher Jean was the most. How could a person's results change so much? She had become first place in the 5 schools joint examination. Alright, that's enough. The school has confirmed this and done a comparative analysis of student Yun Jian's test paper. It's confirmed that it's not plagiarism because student Yun Jian's math analysis, Chinese essay arguments, and English problem-solving ideas are all written in great detail. She could catch up with a college student or even a master's student. Teacher Jean took a deep breath and spoke in a tone that had yet to recover from the shock she felt when she first received the news. The moment Teacher Jean said that, all the students in the class gasped. Especially when they looked at Wang Ruru, their expressions changed. Chapter 80. A week passed quickly. Dong Wan had already settled the school transfer procedures for Yunjian while Qin Yiru had already packed the things they were moving away. There were not many things that belonged to them, only a few sets of clothes to change into. They did not have the money to buy other things in the past. Yunyi knew that they were moving this week as well. She had specially rushed home from school to help with the move, moving her clothes and some useful books. When she left, a few neighbors who were close to Qin Yiru came to send her off. Lu Fian and the rest of the basketball team were all there. Xiao Jian, you have to take good care of yourself. We agreed that we'll go to the same high school a year later. This is our promise. Lu Fian held back her urge to cry as she forced a smile and winked at Yunjian. Emin, we will. Yunjian nodded and patted the back of Lu Fian's hand. This girl was the first person she had met who truly cared about her since her rebirth. Friend was a word that held a lot of meaning. Seriously. Leaving so suddenly. It's so rare for our basketball team to have a girl who's so good at basketball and you're leaving. Wu Kuei did not know how to send her off. As a man, he could not cry like a girl, so he could only express his feelings with words. Yunjian smiled at each other. After a few days of being together, she had also treated the basketball team as her friends. Let's meet again in Longmen City a year later. Yunjian left them with a solemn declaration, but it made everyone's blood boil. Sure. You have to be our guide then. Li Xiangyi chuckled from the side, scratching his head out of habit. Yunjian nodded with a smile, her pretty face drawing everyone's attention. Xiao Jian, Xiao Yi, we have to go now. The bus will be leaving soon. Get on quickly. Qin Yiru bade farewell to the neighbors and called out to Yunjian and Yunyi. They were finally leaving. They were leaving the place where they had lived for half their lives but grew increasingly disappointed. It was as if the heavy burden in their hearts had been lifted. After getting into the car drove off. Yunjian could still see Lu Fian chasing after the car and shouting goodbye until she could no longer see her figure. At this moment, Yunjian couldn't describe her feelings. However, she knew that she was destined to move forward. She was not a person who valued friendship and righteousness, but she was not a heartless person either. He would not stop his footsteps for anyone. When they arrived at the bus stop, Dong Ruan personally drove over to pick them up. Dong Ruan's family was very well off. They had both a car and a house. The only regret was that Dong Ruan's husband had passed away in an accident. He had died on the spot. She only left behind a son who was only 8 years old. Therefore, she usually lived in her own villa. Other than being alone with her son, she was always very lonely. Now that Qin Yiru's family could move in, she was really happy. The villa was very big, and there were many rooms that could be lived in. Dong Wan arranged 2 rooms for each of Yunjian, Yunyi, and Qin Yiru, 1 bedroom and 1 study. The villa was still very empty. Qin Yiru did not need a study, so of course, she did not ask for one. After settling down, Qin Yiru planned to go out and look for a job. After all, this was someone else's house. It was not comfortable to live here. After saving enough money, she would eventually have to move out. When Dong Wan heard that Qin Yiru wanted to look for a job, she initially tried to stop her. After all, Qin Yiru's hand injury had just recovered. However, she could not persuade Qin Yiru, so she found a very easy job for her. Moreover, the monthly salary was quite high. At least, it was much higher than when she worked in the textile factory. At this moment, after Yunjian settled down, she could see Ce almost every day. However, there was nothing to talk about. Chapter 81. What Yun Jian did not know was that before Yuan Yingjun, who stayed in Xinjiang town, could play his dirty tricks on her, Yun Jian had already transferred to another school. Reality proved that when Yuan Yingjun heard that Yun Jian had transferred to another school without a word, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He watched as his meticulously planned plan went down the drain. Of course, this was a story for another time. At this moment, Yun Jian was carrying her daily necessities. She did not have much and was walking toward her new school with relaxed and happy steps. Looking up at the entrance of No. 1 High School, a red plaque was erected above the school gate, Dragon Gate No. 1 High School. Dragon Gate No. 1 High School was the school's full name that people often talked about. Yun Jian was a transfer student and had joined the school midway, so she reported to the principal's office as soon as she arrived at the new school. Principal Zhang was a middle-aged man with a square face. He sat upright and still, looking like a solemn and strict teacher. Since Yun Jian was introduced by Dong Wan and Dong Wan was a high-ranking official in the city's education bureau, Principal Zhang's attitude toward Yun Jian carried a hint of flattery. He even arranged Yun Jian to be in the best class in Year 3. Year 3 Class A. Every grade here was divided into classes by alphabets. For example, Class A, B, C, D. Of course, the students who were able to enter No. 1 middle school were either from wealthy families or had excellent academic results. The students in Class A of each grade were either the most well-off or the most outstanding in this group. Due to Dong Ruan's background, Yun Jian was directly arranged to be in Class A. The homeroom teacher of Year 3 Class A was a female teacher who had just graduated from university. She looked very young, probably in her 20s, and her surname was Yu. To be able to get this position right after graduation, her family must be wealthy as well. Teacher Yu brought Yun Jian to the dormitory and packed her daily necessities before bringing Yun Jian to Class A. Longmen No. 1 Middle School had a rule that all students who studied here had to stay on campus from Monday to Friday, even if they were from wealthy families. Yun Jian knew about it early on, so she brought her daily necessities. Fortunately, there weren't many things, so she packed them up quickly. In the classroom of Grade 3 Class A, during the break, the students in the classroom were all grinning and having fun. Teacher Yu led Yun Jian into the classroom and gestured for the whole class to quiet down. This is a new transfer student. I hope that everyone can get along well in the future. Next, let's invite the new student to introduce himself. Teacher Yu said. When Ms. Yu said this, all the students in the class stared at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was not bad-looking. She had big eyes, long and thin brows, and the long and narrow eyelashes beneath her eyes fluttering. She was small yet adorable. It was just that her tattered old clothes that were so worn that they had faded from being washed, spoiling the scene. A girl looked at Yun Jian's appearance with jealousy and rolled her eyes. Pfft, she's most likely someone who came from a poor village. I don't know how someone like her got into our Class A. Most of the students here said whatever they wanted without any hesitation. Because of their family background, even the teachers could only turn a blind eye and pretend that they didn't hear anything. Yun Jian naturally heard it, but she pretended not to hear it. She simply introduced herself. I'm Yun Jian. That's it? What about self-introduction? That's it? The students sitting below were all stunned. Yun Jian. Why did this name sound so familiar? Chapter 82. Most of the students in Class A didn't pay much attention to the exam results. Most of the students in Class A were from wealthy families, but the teachers assigned to them were the best in the entire cohort. This also fully showed that in this world, only those with money and power were kings. However, there were also some top students in Class A who had the best grades in the city, but didn't come from wealthy families. After that student's shout, coupled with Yun Jian's current attire, the entire class immediately categorized Yun Jian as someone who didn't come from a wealthy family but had excellent grades. If the international tycoons and world-class old fellows that Yun Jian knew in her previous life heard these thoughts, they would probably roll on the floor laughing. What a joke. Yun Jian didn't have money? No power? Pfft, who are you kidding? If she didn't have money, how could she have monopolized the entire business world? If she didn't have power, how could she have done whatever she wanted in the black market? After the entire class was in an uproar, Teacher Yu calmly pointed to a seat near the trash can at the back of the classroom and said to Yun Jian, "You can sit there for now. In a few days, the classroom will rearrange the seats and you will be moved to the front." Teacher Yu didn't mean to ridicule Yun Jian on purpose, but the classroom was already full and there was only one empty seat. Number 1 middle school was the place where parents in the city racked their brains to send their children to school. If it weren't for Dong Wan, the seat beside the trash can would have been taken away long ago. Okay. Yun Jian nodded and walked down from the podium to the seat Teacher Yu pointed out. There were many rich kids in Class A, so there were many fun people. When Yun Jian walked through the aisle and headed to the back of the classroom, she saw a boy covering his mouth and laughing as if he was up to something. His scheme was written all over his face. Yun Jian pretended not to see it and continued walking to the back of the classroom. When she went to the back and was near the seat of the boy who was smirking just now, he suddenly extended a leg, wanting to hook Yun Jian with it to tease the new student. Many of the students in the class were laughing in their hearts, as if they were already accustomed to this boy's trick of entertaining new students. In everyone's imagination, when Yun Jian walked over, she was suddenly tripped by the boy and fell directly to the ground with a bang, causing the whole class to burst into laughter. However, that was not the case. The boy suddenly stretched out a leg. Under the expectant gaze of the students, Yun Jian smiled. She lifted her leg and was about to walk over, but suddenly stopped in midair. The boy had already stretched out his leg and placed it in the middle of the aisle. At this moment, Yun Jian paused her leg in the air and suddenly stomped down. Ah! Looking again, the boy's leg was actually stepped on by Yun Jian. He cried out in pain, "Ah, it hurts, it hurts." Yun Jian stomped hard. She paused for a moment and then raised her leg. Her eyes were bright, but she was looking ahead. In other words, she had accurately stepped on the boy's leg based on her intuition. When the students in the class saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Every time a new student came to the class, as long as they were students who did not come from rich families but were exceptionally good in their studies, they would be bullied. Just like what the boy did just now. However, no one had ever been able to avoid it. When Yun Jian walked over just now, it was as if she did not know about this at all. How did the next moment, the person who was being stepped on become this boy? Chapter 83. The boy was not angry at being stepped on. Instead, he chuckled and rubbed his retracted foot, teasing Yun Jian right in front of Miss Yu. "Hey. New student, you're pretty good. Let's be friends. I'm Zhang Xiaofeng, what about you?" Although Yun Jian had introduced herself in front of the class, no one would remember the new student's name on purpose. Yun Jian ignored him and walked past Zhang Xiaofeng to her designated seat. The girls in the class were displeased again. Zhang Xiaofeng was the most handsome boy in EE High. He was handsome and could charm a lot of girls. More importantly, he came from a wealthy family and was said to be the heir of a large corporation in Longmen City, worth tens of millions. Many girls in Class A were Zhang Xiaofeng's admirers. Hence, the girls expressed their displeasure at the newcomer, Yun Jian. Why is this newcomer so smug? She dares to ignore young Master Feng. Does she really think she's some treasure? Who does she think she is? That's right. She doesn't even look at what she's wearing. TSK, those clothes must have been picked up from street stalls. She's still wearing them. The boys and girls in number 1 middle school came from well-to-do families. Therefore, in school, they always liked to compare who bought which branded clothes or shoes. Yun Jian's attire became another topic of discussion for these girls who already held grudges against her. In spite of it, Yun Jian ignored them and pretended not to hear them. Yun Jian's seat was next to the trash can, so she did not have a desk mate. Just as she was about to take a short nap with her eyes closed, she suddenly felt a touch on her arm. Opening her eyes, she saw a shy and obedient girl sitting in front of her greeting her. "Hi, how are you? I'm Chinsini. Can I be friends with you?" The girl blinked cutely and continued in a familiar tone, "I know your name is Yunjian. After hearing my introduction, you don't have to introduce yourself to me again." Chinsini behaved naturally and gracefully. Although she had the aura of someone born in a wealthy family, she didn't ridicule or despise Yunjian because of her clothes like other girls. This made Yunjian have a good impression of Chinsini. She nodded and replied to the cute girl, "Yes. Since you've agreed, then we're friends from now on. You can't go back on your word." Chinsini smiled sweetly and made a face at Yunjian, with a hint of mischief in it. However, as soon as Chinsini finished her last sentence, the bell rang. Chinsini chuckled and curled her lips. "It's time for class. Let's go to the cafeteria for lunch." The next class was an English quiz. To put it bluntly, it was an exam, so the third and fourth classes were held together. After the two classes, it was lunchtime. Number 1 middle school's cafeteria paid by swiping a card. After charging money into the card was swiped after ordering. Lunchtime was 1.5 hours long, so it was enough for the students to line up and eat. Before Yunjian could apply for her meal card, Chinsini held her arm and generously asked her to pay with her own card first. The school cafeteria did not accept cash. After getting their food and sitting at the dining table in the large cafeteria, Chinsini could not help asking Yunjian, even addressing her affectionately, "Jianjian, which school did you go to before?" She took a bite of her food as she spoke. Hearing Chinsini call her Jianjian, Yunjian was surprised. It was a weird form of address, but she did not think much of it. Yunjian was not repulsed by Chinsini's enthusiasm. That was why she did not reject Chinsini when she took the initiative to hold her arm. Xinjiang Town High School. Yunjian took a big bite of meat and replied as she chewed. She was a little thin and frail, so it was easy for her to fight with normal people. However, if she were to encounter high-level assassins and secret agents in her past life, she would be lacking in stamina. She had to nourish herself well to keep up with her physique. Wow, it must be fun. Chinsini did not mean anything bad. She was just being childish. Across the 4-seater table where they were sitting, a handsome boy with a smile took his seat opposite Yunjian with a plate of rice. Looking up, it was Zhang Xiaofeng. It was obvious that Zhang Xiaofeng's appearance had attracted the attention and screams of the girls around the cafeteria. "Hey, new student, I know now. You're Yunjian, right? Haha." Zhang Xiaofeng said to Yunjian with his signature smile. He then scanned the surroundings and went to Yunjian to ask softly, "What's your name?" Chapter 84. Once Zhang Xiaofeng said that, Yunjian looked up at him and went back to eating without replying. Zhang Xiaofeng panicked and turned to Chinsini, who was giggling. "Hey, Sini, put in a good word for me." It looked like Zhang Xiaofeng and Chinsini were old acquaintances and had a close relationship. "Heh heh." Chinsini chuckled with a hand over her mouth and turned to Yunjian. "Jianjian, don't teach him. He's bad." Zhang Xiaofeng and Chinsini were actually cousins and had been bickering since they were young. As Zhang Xiaofeng was a few months older than Chinsini and had a playful personality, he usually liked to bully Chinsini. Hence, Chinsini took the opportunity to get revenge on Zhang Xiaofeng in front of Yunjian. "Go away." Zhang Xiaofeng waved his fist at Chinsini when he heard what she said to Yunjian before looking at Yunjian. "Yunjian, I don't care. I'll take it that you've accepted me as your disciple if you don't say anything." Yunjian grinned and moved the chopsticks in her hand, uttering faintly, "Let's eat." Zhang Xiaofeng and Chinsini were speechless. A week passed by quickly. It was more relaxing in school this week, at least they did not run into any trouble. Even if there were, they had Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng to protect them. These few days, Zhang Xiaofeng had been chasing after Yun Jian and calling her master, master, non-stop, surprising a lot of people. Yun Jian was exasperated. It was Friday soon. Yun Jian packed the things she wanted to bring home for the weekend. There was not much, so she put everything in her bag and left the dorm for the school gate. There was a direct bus from Human High School to her family's villa. Yun Jian went to the bus stop after she exited the school gate. There was a lot of traffic in front of the school gate. There were not many cars in this era, so most of the students took the bus. Pfft, just as Yun Jian followed the crowd to take the bus, a black limited edition Lamborghini sped over and drifted to a stop at the empty space in front of the school gate. Yun Jian squinted and saw the breathtakingly handsome CE sitting in the Lamborghini from afar. Why was he here? Yun Jian squinted, wondering why this person who had nothing to do with her was here. Just as she thought about it, the girls at the school gate screamed. "Oh my God, who is that? He's so handsome. How can there be such a handsome person in this world? Oh my God, I'm not dreaming, am I? Is he here to pick someone up? Is it his girlfriend? Wow, I'm so jealous. His girlfriend must be a beautiful and rich girl." Although cars were rare in this era, most of the students in number 1 high school had their own cars. So it was not surprising that a car appeared at the school gate. However, this Lamborghini was a limited edition sports car and there were only a few of them in the world. Even if they did not know how expensive this car was, they could tell how valuable it was. Everyone was panicking. Everyone held their breaths and looked at CE, not daring to breathe loudly. CE turned his chiseled face and stared at Yun Jian with his deep eyes. He pursed his thin lips and said, "Get in." Who got in? Everyone looked around for the person. Chapter 85. This was Yun Jian's third time seeing CE. The first 2 times, they had only seen each other, but they hadn't even spoken to each other. What Yun Jian didn't understand was why he had come to pick her up when they clearly didn't have any interactions at all. However, Yun Jian had never been a talkative person. As a special agent in her previous life, she had to remember one thing: the less you know, the longer you live. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. She wasn't pretentious as she walked over to the Lamborghini's front passenger seat and got in. This kind of super sports car could only seat 2 people and didn't have a back seat. Just as Yun Jian got into the car and closed the door, the Lamborghini's accelerator was suddenly stepped on. The entire car was like a flying arrow as it whizzed across the road like a gust of wind and disappeared from everyone's sight. The surrounding group of people was instantly dumbfounded. Although they had cars at home, they had never seen a car that could be driven at such a fast speed. The car just now wasn't driven at such a speed, it was as if it was running at full speed. That speed was really like a gust of wind. The surrounding group of people watched as the sports car left in a flashy manner. The handsome man driving the sports car left with Yun Jian, and they all revealed looks of disappointment. It was also at this moment that a good-looking girl pointed in the direction Yun Jian had left in and raised her eyebrows at her friend beside her. She spoke loudly as if she was afraid that the surrounding group of people couldn't hear her loud voice. "Isn't that girl just now a new classmate from our class? I heard that she transferred in from an ordinary school in the town." As soon as the girl said that, some of the surrounding students turned their attention to the girl. The feeling of being the center of attention made the girl feel very comfortable as she continued to speak her long-winded speech. It was as if she was the one sitting in the Lamborghini sports car. In fact, this girl had appeared before. When Yun Jian had just entered the classroom, she had taken the lead to scold Yun Jian in front of the teacher. She had said that Yun Jian was obviously from a poor village. She even mocked Yun Jian without hesitation. How did someone like her get into Class A? This girl's name was Lu Rongrong. At this moment, Lu Rongrong seemed to know everything about Yun Jian. In front of all the teachers and students at the school gate, she began to boast about her. At this moment, inside the Lamborghini, It was the middle of October, and the cold wind had just started blowing. The weather was slightly colder. Especially since it had been drizzling for the past few days, the change in the weather was even more obvious. The heater was turned on in the sports car, so it was warm. Unlike the coolness outside, it was much more comfortable. Not long after the car left the school gate, CE said, "My aunt asked me to pick you up from school." Does this mean that it was Dong Ruan's idea to pick me up from school and not his own? Yunjian nodded and answered without batting an eyelid. Yunjian sat in the car. She was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt. The warm air from the heater in the car raised her temperature. CE's driving skills were very good. He stepped on the accelerator tightly and sped wildly on the bustling street without hitting anyone. Yunjian's driving skills in her previous life were among the best in the world. CE's driving skills seemed to be on par with hers. However, if they were to really compare, perhaps there would be a different situation. Chapter 86. Speeding all the way home, Yunjian did not look scared at all. There was not even a flicker in her gaze. A normal girl would have shrieked at the speed of the car. CE narrowed his eyes. This girl was different from the rest since their first meeting. When they arrived at the villa, Yunjian went straight to her bedroom. At this hour, both Dong Ruan, who was a high-ranking official, and Qin Yiru, who had gone out to work, were still at work. Therefore, there was only Yunjian and CE, who was in the room not far from hers, left in the villa. The atmosphere was strange. Yunjian was already in her bedroom. She turned on her laptop and logged into the secret web page. Beep, beep, beep. After 3 beeps, a message popped up. It was a private message sent by Snake Lizard not long ago. It was short and simple. "I'm here." She had arrived in Longmen City. Yunjian pursed her lips slightly as she typed, "Wait for me, I'm coming over now," on the keyboard. She then closed the web page and closed her laptop, changing her outfit and heading out. Just as she stepped out, she saw CE, who was in the room next door, opening his door and coming out of his room. Yunjian's eyes darted around as she went over and extended her hand without hesitation. "Lend me your Lamborghini." CE raised his eyebrows and glanced at Yunjian suspiciously. "You know how to drive?" He had checked the girl's background. She was born in an ordinary family and was still an underage girl. However, the truth was not as simple as it seemed. "Yes," Yunjian answered with a wave of her hand. CE was not stingy as he tossed the car keys to Yunjian. The Lamborghini was a global limited edition supercar that he had personally modified. He would not lend it to anyone easily. He had never let anyone drive the car since it was in his hands. Yunjian was the first person other than himself to have done so. He didn't even know why he lent his car to her. At this moment, Yunjian had already sat in the front seat of the Lamborghini and started the engine. She stepped on the accelerator, and the car roared like thunder. She tested the car's performance. The car's performance was very high. Compared to her favorite car in her previous life, the Ferrari LaFerrari, it was not inferior at all. Boom, boom, boom. With a final roar, Yunjian stepped on the accelerator and released the clutch. The Lamborghini rushed out like a bolt of lightning. Golden Glitter Hotel. Yunjian slammed on the brakes. The Lamborghini drifted at the entrance of the Golden Glitter Hotel and stopped steadily. The Glitter Hotel was a 5-star hotel in Longmen City. There was food and accommodation. More importantly, the hotel's interior decoration was classy, one of the best in Longmen City. Of course, in comparison, the consumption was one level higher. Even some of Longmen City's high-ranking officials, such as the mayor and secretary, would choose this hotel as the venue for important meetings. Yunjian got out of the Lamborghini and stepped into the hotel through the entrance with narrowed eyes. Just as she stepped in, Yunjian saw a woman sitting in a corner on the first floor. From the back, this woman looked very ordinary. She even wore a hat on her head. However, from the side of her face, she was extremely exquisite. The woman was only in her 20s. Opposite the woman sat a middle-aged man in his 40s. Both of them were talking about something. Yun Jian walked over with narrowed eyes. Chapter 87. Snake. Lizard was good at hiding and hiding her identity. She could blend into every corner without being noticed. Therefore, Yun Jian searched around the corners the moment she entered the hotel and found Snake. Lizard. Snake. Lizard was talking to the middle-aged man sitting opposite her. She stopped talking and looked at Yun Jian as soon as she sensed someone approaching. She could not help frowning when she saw Yun Jian slowly making her way over with both hands in her pockets. Who was this girl? Yun Jian looked nothing like how she did in her past life. Even her height and body shape were different. She was tall and seductive in her past life, but she was petite and cute now. It was no wonder that Snake. Lizard did not recognize her. She became alert when she saw Yun Jian walking toward them. What's wrong? The middle-aged man did not notice Yun Jian walking toward them. He found it strange that Snake. Lizard stopped talking. Just as the middle-aged man finished his question, Yun Jian was already in front of them. The middle-aged man was stunned. When he saw Yun Jian clearly, he thought that she was a little girl who was here to cause trouble. He waved at Yun Jian. Little girl, go over there if you want to play. Uncle and sister have something important to discuss. The middle-aged man pointed at the door as he spoke, obviously thinking that Yun Jian had gone to the wrong place. Yun Jian ignored the middle-aged man's explanation. She looked at Snake. Lizard with her clear eyes and pursed her lips slightly. She spoke in German using a code that only Snake. Lizard and her knew when she was slaying God in her past life. Slaying is not a god, Snake. Lizard is not a lizard. Professional assassins like them were proficient in foreign languages. They had come into contact with languages from big countries to small villages. This code word was set by her and Snake. Lizard back then, and when saying this code word, it had to be said in German, or it would be ineffective. What's that? Little girl, what are you talking about? The middle-aged man did not understand German at all and had no idea what Yun Jian was doing. Just as he was about to drive Yun Jian away, he saw Snake. Lizard suddenly stand up. Because of the shock, the corner of her clothes accidentally brushed the teacup on the table. Fortunately, Snake. Lizard was quick, and she immediately caught the teacup. You. The snake lizard moved its lips. However, Yun Jian put her index finger to her lips and made a shoo expression. Even this action was exactly the same as slaying gods. Snake. Lizard forcibly suppressed the shock in its heart. In fact, in the eyes of Snake. Lizard and the others, Yun Jian had already disappeared. Because they only found Yun Jian's beloved car, the Ferrari sports car, but she was missing. Yun Jian never left this sports car. Even when she was out on a mission, she would drive it everywhere. The car was still there and the people were still there. But now, the car was here, and there was no news of the person. That meant, but not long ago, Yun Jian took the initiative to contact her. Snake. Lizard was particularly surprised at that time, but at the same time, she was relieved that Yun Jian was fine. Of course, who was slaying God? The #1 special agent. How could something have happened to her? However, until Yun Jian said the code and did the action, the questions in her heart seemed to have been answered. I'll settle your matter in a few days. You can leave now, Snake. Lizard looked at Yun Jian and said to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was stunned and dumbfounded. What was going on? This little girl who came out of nowhere was spouting nonsense. He did not know what she meant, but Snake. Lizard was asking him to leave now. However, the middle-aged man dared not provoke Snake. Lizard, so he could only turn around and leave. Chapter 88. You're slaying God? There were only the two of them in the hotel room. Snake. Lizard frowned in disbelief as she looked at Yunjian, who was sitting on the bench and smiling. No matter how she looked at her, the girl before her had thin arms and legs. She was beautiful and exquisite, but compared to the slaying god of the past, the difference was huge. Whether it was her appearance or her height. There were no outsiders now. Yunjian nodded at Snake. Lizard and smirked. Who else could it be other than me? That was right. Other than slaying God, who else could exude such an aura that made her submit? Apart from her, who else would know the secret code between them? How did you become like this? Snake. Lizard breathed a sigh of relief. After confirming that Yunjian was slaying God again, she asked in confusion and shock. Who wouldn't be shocked to be reborn into another person's body? That was why Yunjian hid the truth from the people around her after her rebirth. Even if she told them, no one would believe her. Instead, they would think that she had gone mad. However, it was different for Snake. Lizard. Yunjian knew Snake. Lizard and her weakness, so she told Snake. Lizard without fear. At the same time, there was no doubt that Snake. Lizard was the person she trusted the most when she was slaying God's agent. It's a long story. I touched the box that day and I was already like this when I woke up. Yunjian shrugged and smiled helplessly. The sandalwood box? Snake. Lizard licked her lips and asked. Yunjian nodded. Snake. Lizard was the only person who knew about her rescue of her brother who was kidnapped in her past life. It's a foregone conclusion. We can't change it, but I'm very satisfied with my current situation. Yunjian changed the topic and smiled shyly. She was glad that she had the family she had always longed for after her rebirth. Yunjian then asked Snake. Lizard to update her on the Kosha mercenaries' recent situation. Snake. Lizard's eyes narrowed and her tone was grave. Those old guys can't sit still anymore. Oh. Yunjian raised her eyebrows and chuckled. This group of old men referred to some of the senior members of the Kosha mercenaries. They were also the subordinates of the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries. In her previous life, Yunjian was only 16 years old. She was very young, but after her rebirth, she became 15 years younger. In her previous life, when she was 14 years old, she had killed the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries. Then, she brought her own group of people to infiltrate the Kosha mercenaries and took over their power. It had only been 2 years since then. However, a mercenary group couldn't be supported by just a few people. Because she had killed the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries, that group of old men had been waiting patiently for an opportunity to take her down and destroy her. Of course, Yunjian wouldn't let them succeed. She could even easily destroy that group of old men. However, the time was not right yet. The group of old men had a strong backing. If they were eliminated at once, the Kosha mercenaries' capability would be greatly reduced. If that happened, it would be extremely disadvantageous for the Kosha mercenaries if other assassin mercenary organizations took advantage of the situation. What she wanted to do was to replace all the old members of the Kosha mercenaries with her own people and make them fall into hell step by step. Stay in Longmen City for now. Don't go back to the organization. Remember to tell Tiger. Leopard to keep an eye on those old men. Report to me immediately if they do anything. Yunjian's lips curled into a half-smile that was eerily charming. Okay. Snake. Lizard nodded. She had never rejected Yunjian's orders. Tiger. Leopard was the person who picked up Yunjian's call when she was in Xinjiang town. Both Snake. Lizard and Tiger. Leopard were absolutely obedient to Yunjian. It was because Snake. Lizard and Tiger. Leopard were saved by Yunjian. Without Yunjian, they would not be where they were today. It was almost dusk when Yunjian and Snake. Lizard came down from the private room of the hotel. Yun Jian walked in front while Snake Lizard followed behind. Both of them were walking down the spiral staircase of the hotel. A group of rowdy people came in from the entrance. Judging by their attire, they were students. Yun Jian, however, saw someone she was extremely familiar with in the crowd. Brother Yun Yi? Why was he here? Yun Jian was stunned. Yun Yi and the rest did not see her, but she happened to see Yun Yi looking awkward. The boy standing beside Yun Yi was not Su Hao Cole but a fashionably dressed boy. The boy suggested casually, "It's Su Hao Cole's birthday dinner today. We can't possibly come here empty-handed, can we? How about this, each of us will give Su Hao Cole a 100 yuan red packet. Does anyone have any objections?" The group had no objections, but Yun Yi, who was standing among them, stood out like a crane among a flock of chickens. 100 yuan was not a small amount to him. Therefore, Yun Yi was quite embarrassed. The boy seemed to have disliked Yun Yi for a long time. He suddenly turned to look at Yun Yi and said with a chuckle, "Yun Yi, you don't have to pay. Your family background is poor and we all know you can't afford it. Anyway, you and Hao Zhe are good friends. He won't mind." Chapter 89. Yun Yi was handsome. He was the tallest and most handsome person in the group. However, it also attracted the jealousy of the other boys in the class. Most of the girls in the class were looking at Yun Yi. All of them blushed and did not even look at the other boys. The boy just now was the one in Yun Yi's class who disliked him the most. His name was Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang was not very good looking. Although he was quite tall, he was a little fat. His face was covered with acne. Because his family was rich, it was inevitable that he felt that he was better than others. He was arrogant and domineering. Most of the students in Yun Yi's class were from the city. Their families were quite rich. The whole class was invited to Su Hao Cole's birthday party. Of course, there were also many students who did not attend the party. Yun Yi and Su Hao Cole were close friends. Of course, it was impossible for him not to give face and not attend. Wu Kuang took advantage of this. In addition, most of the students who came to the party today were from rich families. He came up with this idea to embarrass Yun Yi. Yun Yi was really embarrassed by Wu Kuang's words. After all, it was his good friend's birthday party. Although Su Hao Cole had told him not to send any gifts and that it was fine as long as he came, the thought was the most important. However, he saw that all the classmates who came with him had given red packets. On the other hand, he, who was the closest to Su Hao Cole, did not pay a single cent and came to eat and drink for free. What did it look like? However, Yun Yi really did not have any money. At most, he only had a few yuan. He had saved it for a few months. After all, his family's situation was also there. Now, he was even living in someone else's house. How could he have spare money? Wu Kuang snickered in his heart. He was waiting to see Yun Yi's embarrassed face. "Brother." At this moment, a beautiful and crisp voice came in time. The voice was crisp and pleasant like the sound of nature. A girl about 15 years old walked down the spiral stairs. This girl was wearing ordinary clothes, and behind her was a woman wearing a hat. However, what made people's eyes light up was the girl's beautiful and delicate little face. Yun Jian walked over and stood beside Yun Yi. She ignored the others and smiled at Yun Yi. "Brother. Why are you here?" "Xiao Jian?" Yun Yi was taken aback. She wanted to ask Yun Jian the same question, but she was one step ahead of her. "It's Zhe's birthday today. He's treating everyone to a banquet here. Our classmates are all here to celebrate his birthday." Yun Yi's awkwardness eased a little when she saw her younger sister. He even felt that as long as his sister was around, there was nothing that couldn't be done. "Oh." Yun Jian pretended to understand what was going on. She nodded and then burst into a bright smile. "Then you shouldn't mind if I bring my friends along for a free meal, right?" As she spoke, Yun Jian shifted to the side and revealed snake. Lizard as well. The others could not help rolling their eyes inwardly when they heard Yun Jian. They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen someone as shameless as her, coming up to ask for a free meal. Yun Yi, who had never seen snake, lizard before, was surprised and looked at Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, she's my friend, Yun Jian answered with half-squinted eyes. Yun Yi, this is your younger sister? Wu Yin looked at Yun Yi with gritted teeth when she saw that her scheme did not work and was interrupted by Yun Jian. Wu Yin did not wait for Yun Yi to admit that Yun Jian was her younger sister and said eagerly, Yun Yi, your sister's bringing her friends to the gathering too? That's not very nice, is it? Su Hao Cole is treating our classmates to a meal out of kindness. We'll forget about your share, but if there are 2 more people. The meaning behind her words was self-evident. Chapter 90. Sure enough, as soon as Wu Yin finished speaking, not only Yun Yi, but also some of the classmates around them could hear Wu Yin's strong hostility towards Yun Yi. They all showed a trace of embarrassment. Wu Yin did not give up. He smiled evilly and did not feel that he had just said anything overboard. Instead, he added fuel to the fire and said to Yun Yi in a charitable tone, forget it. I think Yun Yi, I'll pay for your red packets. As he spoke, Wu Yin took out a leather wallet from his trouser pocket and took out 3 red Grandpa Mao notes from the wallet. When he did this, he deliberately paid attention to the gazes of the group of people around him. He put on airs as if he was superior to others. Wow, Wu Yin, is the wallet in your hand made of real leather? It's so cool. This style hasn't been sold in the market yet. At this time, a boy in the group with big glasses sighed. The boy's words made Wu Yin even more proud. Wu Yin held the 3 cute Grandpa Mao notes in his hand. He was not in a hurry to use it to humiliate Yun Yi. Instead, he boasted even more. Now, the way he looked at others changed. This wallet was a birthday gift from my uncle this year. It was imported from France. As he said this, Wu Yin raised his head proudly and showed off. As he spoke, Wu Yin turned to look at Yun Yi. He looked at him with a charitable gaze and handed the 3 Grandpa Mao notes to Yun Yi. Take it. You don't have to return it. His tone was very domineering. It was as if the 300 yuan was nothing in his eyes. He used it to highlight his family's strong foundation. Yun Yi clenched his fist. Seeing Wu Yin humiliate him like this, he almost raised his fist and punched him. But he held back. Take the money back. We don't need it. Yun Yi gritted his teeth. Their family was poor, but even if they were poor with dignity. Hey, Yun Yi. I was kind enough to help you out. Why don't you appreciate it? Wu Yin pursed his lips and even accused Yun Yi, saying that he was ungrateful. Yun Yi's face darkened. Yun Jian saw her brother being bullied by Wu Yin. Naturally, she would not sit by and do nothing. Snake. Lizard, who was standing behind Yun Jian, finally understood the whole story. She remained silent and waited for Yun Jian's instructions. You want to give a red packet if you stay for dinner, right? Yun Jian blinked, replacing Yun Yi, Wu Yin. Everyone is prepared to give it to you. You can't just give it to the white sheep empty-handed, right? Little girl, your brother hasn't accepted my goodwill yet. Why don't you hold on to this money for him? Wu Chang waved the 3 red banknotes in his hand and told Yun Jian boastfully. To Wu Qiao, he only had one goal, to embarrass Yun Yi. The rest of the process was not important. It was apparent that Wu Qiao had thought of her as a girl who came from a poor family and was greedy for money. Of course we want to give a red packet. Yun Jian smiled at Wu Yin, revealing a row of neat white teeth. Wu Yin thought that Yun Jian had taken the bait. He quickly handed the 300 yuan used to humiliate Yun Yi to Yun Jian. At the same time, he looked at Yun Yi with disdain. Then take it quickly. He subconsciously thought that Yun Yi's family did not have the financial means to take out 300 yuan at once. Yun Jian suddenly stopped smiling. Her expression suddenly became cold. She turned her head slightly, not looking at Wu Yin and the others' expressions. She turned her head to look at Snake Lizard's bag, then turned her head to look at Wu Yin and the others. How can a red packet of 100 yuan be enough? Shouldn't you at least give 1,000 yuan? As she spoke, Yun Jian called Snake Lizard. Lizard. Snake. Lizard had been by Yun Jian's side for so long, how could she not know what Yun Jian meant? Snake. Lizard obeyed and opened her bag, taking out 3 stacks of red 100 yuan notes. Snake. Lizard had the habit of keeping cash in her bag. Yun Jian was naturally aware of this. Seeing everyone's shocked and frightened expressions, and then thinking of her brother's awkward face when he was bullied and did not know how to fight back, Yun Jian could no longer hold back. Even if she could not tell Qin Yi the truth, she had to let her brother know something. Yun Jian looked at Wu Yin, who was holding the 300 yuan notes in shock, and sneered, 1,000 each, no need to return. Chapter 91. 3 thick stacks of red notes meant 30,000 yuan. Moreover, the money came from Snake Lizard's purse. In other words, Snake Lizard's purse was filled to the brim with cash. Prices were low in this day and age. It was already impressive for a student like Wu Qiao to be able to fork out 100 yuan. At the very least, the parents of these students were high-ranking officials or entrepreneurs. They could fork out 100 yuan, but 1,000 yuan was not a small sum. 1,000 yuan was enough for a normal family to live for a long time. Therefore, everyone present was dumbfounded when they saw the scene just now, their eyes nearly falling out of their sockets. Yun Yi was poor, so was his younger sister. Why would his sister's friend have so much money in her purse? More importantly, why had Snake Lizard obeyed Yun Jian's command just like that? Xiao Jian, you. Yun Yi's eyes widened as she stared at Yun Jian and Snake Lizard behind her in disbelief. His younger sister was getting more mysterious. Mysterious skills, mysterious friends. Why was it that he could not see through her anymore? They were siblings who grew up together, but Yun Yi froze on the spot as if it was his first time meeting Yun Jian. Yun Jian cast a reassuring look at Yun Yi without explaining anything. Wu Qiao, on the other hand, felt like running away. His palms were sweating as he gripped the 3 notes in his hand that he thought he could humiliate Yun Yi. Looking at the 3 stacks of cash in Snake Lizard's hand, he felt defeated. Now that he thought about it, how ridiculous was his action just now. It was then that a male voice that eased the awkward atmosphere rang. Everyone's here already. Come upstairs quickly, we're waiting for you guys. As the voice faded, Su Hao Cole, who was dressed in a flashy suit, came down the spiral staircase. His tall and muscular physique was as handsome as Yun Yi's. Su Hao Cole was stunned when he saw Yun Jian before he ran to Yun Jian under everyone's surprised gazes and looked at her with admiration. Yun Yi, Mimi, you're here too. Come, take a seat. I'm so happy that you're here for my birthday celebration today. Su Hao's actions caused everyone present to be even more shocked. This girl was valued by Su Hao Cole now. Combined with the scene just now, it seemed that this girl was not simple at all. Yun Yi's younger sister was not simple, not ordinary. Yun Jian smiled at Su Hao Cole and returned to her usual demeanor. Then, she pointed at the 3 stacks of bills in Su Hao Cole's hands and said, "This money is the red packet that everyone prepared for you." She really dared to give it to him? That was a total of 30,000 yuan. The group of people thought that Yun Jian wanted to avenge her brother, so she took out 30,000 yuan. However, they did not expect that she really intended to give it to him. 30,000 yuan, this was not a joke. This. Su Hao Cole glanced at it and was shocked. Take it. Yun Jian winked at Su Haokol and said. Su Haokol, who did not understand the situation, really thought that it was a red packet from his classmates. He thought that his classmates were really generous this time, so he accepted the red packets without any embarrassment. At this moment, Wu Kuang's expression was the ugliest. After all, he was the one who suggested this. The classmates present were not short of money. Even if they really had to give 1,000 yuan, although it was a little too much, it would still give them face. Chapter 92. Yin Yi's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. In the end, Su Haokol gathered everyone on the second floor and seated them at the hot pot table in the VIP private room. There were about a dozen round hot pot tables in the VIP private room and each table could seat about 10 people. It was obvious that Su Haokol had reserved the entire place. Of course, only 2 to 3 hot pot tables were taken after everyone was seated. The remaining tables were used for other purposes. Yun Jian was sitting on the left of her brother, Yun Yi, while Snake Lizard was on her right. Su Haokol was sitting beside Yun Yi. All 4 of them were seated close to each other at the same table. The dishes are ordered. I've told the waiter that our table will be served first. My dad's business friends will be here later. Don't be shy then, we can talk among ourselves. Su Haokol spoke to his rowdy classmates after he sat down. To outsiders, Su Haokol's family was rich and powerful, and his father was a businessman. However, Yun Jian knew that Su Haokol was the son of Longmen City's top mafia boss. As for the friends of my father's business that he mentioned, he was probably referring to the people in that circle. Su Haokol's father was obviously using his son's birthday party as an excuse to invite his peers or people who were useful to him to the gathering and build a better relationship with these people. After all, if a gang wanted to survive, they needed to develop over a long period of time. They couldn't just rely on themselves. They could not rely on themselves alone, especially when important matters were involved, such as a large-scale mafia fight. Even the police officers in the police station had to build a good relationship with them. Otherwise, if someone in the mafia killed someone or there was a mafia fight, the police officers were not idiots. How could they not do anything when they knew about it and let the mafia do whatever they wanted? Yun Yi was also aware of his good friend's identity, but he chose to keep quiet. From the moment he and Su Haokol became brothers, they would not taunt each other because of each other's identity. After a while, the dishes were served. The waiter served the dishes one by one, and the group of people ate happily. After all, eating at the Golden Sparkle Hotel was very expensive. Even if most of the people present had a good foundation, it was impossible for them to eat here often. Otherwise, wouldn't he be broke from eating? Yun Jian sat in her seat and picked the big and fat meat to eat. Her stamina couldn't keep up, so she had to eat more energy. Simply running wasn't enough strength anymore. Slow down, Xiao Jian. No one's fighting with you. Seeing this, Yun Yi smiled handsomely and reached out to wipe off the meat residue on his sister's mouth. Ha ha ha, Mayor Gu, this way please. At this moment, a loud male voice came from the door. Then, a group of middle-aged men in their 30s and 40s walked into the room. Standing at the very front were 2 middle-aged men dressed in formal attire. The people who came in later also greeted them politely. This group of people didn't look ordinary. They obviously treated today as a gathering to make connections and expand their influence. The greeting of Mayor Gu attracted everyone's attention. Mayor Gu? Wasn't that Longmen City's mayor? Such a big shot was here too. Looking at the people who came in later, each of them had an imposing aura and looked like people who were destined for great things. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and turned to look at Snake. Lizard. Snake. Lizard's lips were pressed together when she saw the first middle-aged man who came in. The middle-aged man was none other than the man who was talking to Snake. Lizard when Yun Jian found her downstairs. What was more amazing was that Su Haokol went to the middle-aged man and called out, "Dad." The middle-aged man was Su Haokol's father, the boss of Longmen City's top mafia group, Su Zetian. Chapter 93. The man standing next to Su Zetian was Mayor Gu. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City. His official position was one of the highest in the entire city, and his political status in Longmen City was extraordinary as well. As a mafia boss, it was not surprising that Su Zetian had dealings with people from the government. Yun Jian narrowed his eyes as he watched Su Zetian and the others coming in. Su Zetian did not see Snake, Lizard and Yun Jian at all. He was smiling and nodding at his son, Su Haokol, before following Mayor Gu into the private room to sit at an empty hotpot table. The others followed suit and sat at the empty seats around them. These people were high-ranking officials, triads, or business tycoons. Their social status was not low. They knew how to blend into the environment quickly and find companions who could benefit them, building a closer relationship and seeking cooperation that was mutually beneficial. This was the purpose of their gathering. They were not really here to celebrate Su Zetian's son, Su Haokol's birthday. Su Haokol was more or less disappointed that his father did not even wish him a happy birthday. Even his birthday party was a pretense to expand his influence. It was the same every year, but when he was filled with anticipation and was disappointed again and again, it was like a beloved toy being cruelly smashed in front of him and he was helpless to do anything about it. Su Haokol could only bury his emotions deep down to prevent others from noticing his predicament. Happy birthday. It was at this juncture that Yun Yi seemed to have noticed Su Haokol's mournful gaze. He placed his slender hand on Su Haokol's broad shoulder to comfort Su Haokol. Happy birthday. With Yun Yi taking the lead, everyone present congratulated Su Haokol after hearing it. Su Haokol pursed his thin lips. His voice became a little hoarse, and the gratitude in his eyes was genuine. Thank you, everyone. All right. We're all old classmates. There's no need to thank me. It's what I should do. Someone mumbled. His words moved Su Haokol even more. Yun Jian also followed the trend and shouted happy birthday to Su Haokol. However, her attention was actually focused on Su Zetian. Snake. Lizard had explained Su Zetian's identity to her, including why Snake. Lizard had met Su Zetian. Yun Jian did not expect Su Zetian to be a member of the Kosha mercenaries. However, Su Zetian's influence in the Kosha mercenaries was very small. Just like the members of the Kosha mercenaries were scattered all over the world, there were at least a few 100,000 of them. Furthermore, this group of people was divided into different groups. For example, the intelligence team, the assassination team, the investigation team, and so on. Su Zetian was merely a small force of the Kosha mercenaries in Longmen City. As the boss of the Kosha mercenaries in her past life, Yun Jian had left everything to Tiger, Leopard and Snake, Lizard to manage. It was only natural that she did not know of Su Zetian's existence. Although Su Zetian was a member of the Kosha mercenaries, if he wanted to meet Yun Jian, it would be like an ordinary person meeting the country's president in her past life. Who knew that Yun Jian would end up in Longmen City after going around in circles one day? The wine glass in Su Zetian's hand that was sitting not far away suddenly fell to the ground with a bang and shattered into pieces. His calm demeanor when he was conversing with Mayor Gu crumbled instantly. It was because Su Zetian had just looked up when he saw Snake. Lizard. Terrified, he abandoned Mayor Gu and walked over to her under everyone's gaze. Everyone was shocked that Su Zetian would abandon the influential Mayor Gu and walk over to a woman. What was he doing? Su Zetian asked Snake. Lizard carefully, you're here too. Why didn't you say anything? Do you want to sit over there? Who was this woman? How could she be more dignified than Mayor Gu? Everyone was shocked, including Mayor Gu himself. Snake. Lizard then turned to look at Yun Jian, waiting for Yun Jian's opinion. With that, everyone's gaze was focused on Yun Jian. Chapter 94. I'll sit with my brother. Yunjian did not look up. Wiping her mouth, she smiled faintly and stuffed another mouthful of fatty meat into her mouth. Snake. Lizard turned to look at Su Zetian when she heard Yunjian. You don't have to mind us. It was only then that Su Zetian noticed Yunjian. Yunjian had her hair tied in a high ponytail. Although she was dressed plainly, she exuded the aura of a ruler. Was this not the girl he met downstairs not long ago? He thought she had gone to the wrong place and asked her to stay away. What was the situation now though? Snake. Lizard was a high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries. Su Zetian had no right to know her exact position. He only knew that Snake. Lizard held an extraordinary position in the Kosha mercenaries. Even so, Su Zetian could only admire Snake. Lizard's status. Now, even someone like Snake. Lizard had to lower her head in front of Yunjian. Who was this little girl? If Su Zetian knew that Snake. Lizard was the highest-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries, his legs would have turned to jelly from shock. If he knew that the seemingly harmless Yunjian was the biggest boss of the Kosha mercenaries, he would have fainted and been sent to the hospital. However, Su Zetian did not know. Such was the way of the world. Su Zetian was the boss of the top mafia group in Longmen City, a big shot who could do anything he wanted. However, he did not even know who the biggest boss of the Kosha mercenaries was. Alright. Su Zetian could only wipe his slippery lips and bow to Yunjian and Snake. Lizard before he slowly walked back to Mayor Gu, his body tense. Wow, Yun-Yi, your sister's friend knows Su Haokole's father. Once Su Zetian left, a girl sitting at the same table asked Yun-Yi with a surprised gaze, obviously trying to strike up a conversation with Yun-Yi. Yun-Yi was very popular in the class, especially the girls. They all liked her. Moreover, Yun-Yi was a sincere and gentle person. I don't know, Yun-Yi awkwardly glanced at Yunjian and Snake. Lizard, trying to change the topic. He wanted to know why Xiao Jian's friend knew Zha's father too. Others might not know, but Yun-Yi knew very well that Su Haokole's father was not a model businessman, but a mafia boss. Xiao Jian's friend knew the mafia boss and most importantly, the boss was respectful toward her. Even when he was chatting with a big shot like Mayor Gu, he could actually abandon it and come over to greet him first. At the moment, Yunjian, who was the source of everyone's suspicion, was sitting in her seat and devouring the plate of meat in front of her. Burp. Just as everyone stared at Yunjian eagerly, hoping to hear some explanation from Yunjian burped out of the blue. I'm full. Yunjian rubbed her tummy and returned a sweet smile to the group. The smiles on everyone's faces instantly stiffened. There was no doubt that a wave of shock washed over them. Was there no explanation? After a hearty meal and dinner, the sky was already dark and gloomy. No one was in a hurry to go home. Su Haokole suggested with a chuckle, why don't we go play at the new arcade for a while? I heard that there's a new gun simulation game there. It looks just like a real gun. As he spoke, Su Haokole turned to look at Yunjian. Chapter 95. Sister Yun-Yi, you should come too. Su Haokole suddenly stuck his head in front of Yunjian and said with a cheeky smile. Yun-Yi shifted his gaze to his sister as well. That day, when Yunjian killed the sniper, it scared him to death, but it was also a scene that he could not forget for a long time. Brother, are you going? Yunjian asked Yun-Yi. Su Haokole suddenly hugged Yun-Yi's shoulder and rushed to speak for Yun-Yi, of course Yi is going. I'll go. Yunjian did not hesitate this time and said directly. Su Haokole smiled. The reason why he suggested to experience the simulation game was because of Yunjian. The way Yunjian killed the sniper that day was simply the rhythm of a sharpshooter. Otherwise, he would not go to the arcade to experience the simulation game guns. After all, Su Haokole was someone who had a real gun. The simulation game guns were really not good enough. Other than Yunjian and the others who wanted to go, Yunyi's classmates chose to go home, especially Wu Bin. He had suffered in the hands of Yunjian and had long wanted to leave. After waiting for a long time to finish eating, he ran away early in the morning with his tail between his legs. Snake. Lizard did not plan to go to the children's playground, so Yunjian threw the keys to the Lamborghini that she borrowed from Ce to her and asked her to drive the car away first and come back tomorrow to pick it up. Snake. Lizard responded, took the keys, and turned to leave. After the group of people who left, there were more than a dozen people left. A few girls stayed because they wanted to have more contact with Yun-Yi and Su Haokol. After all, Yun-Yi and Su Haokol were the most handsome guys in school, so there were not many chances to interact with them. Let's walk along the street like this. It's not far from here, just around the corner of 2 streets. Su Haokol said as he pointed at the street ahead. I'm fine with anything. Yunjian nodded. Just take it as a stroll. Su Haokol chuckled. Thus, the group strolled along the busy street. The city was beautiful at night. The area where Yunjian was at was covered in neon lights, and there were many people coming and going. A night breeze blew. Autumn nights were always chilly. Yunjian was wearing a short-sleeved shirt at the moment, so the cool breeze felt a little chilly as it blew through her skin. Yun-Yi suddenly took off his jacket and draped it over Yunjian, saying with a smile, Xiao Jian, put it on. Don't catch a cold. Yun-Yi had always doted on his younger sister since they were young. Yunjian paused. She was actually not cold. She had gone through all kinds of hardships in her past life, so the cool breeze was nothing to her. In spite of it, she felt warmth from the bottom of her heart as she could not help thinking of her younger brother in her past life. If her younger brother was still here, would he be as nice to her as he was now? Thank you, brother. Yunjian pressed her lips together and did not return the jacket to Yun-Yi. Instead, she wrapped it around her shoulders. Yun-Yi smiled and ruffled Yunjian's hair. Step by step, they arrived at the arcade in no time. The arcade was located on the 3rd floor of a skyscraper. Skyscrapers were not common in Longmen City in 1998. The construction of skyscrapers had just begun, so this place was considered the city center of Longmen City. It was the arcade on the 3rd floor. As Yunjian and the group stepped into the arcade, they saw the big screen that showed a gun simulation game. It had the most people gathered in front of it, most of them teenagers. Chapter 96. While Su Haokol was exchanging the game coins, Yunjian glanced around. If it wasn't for her brother, Yun-Yi, coming here, Yunjian wouldn't have come to this place. To Yunjian, the shooting games here were too childish. The rain of bullets she experienced in her previous life wasn't any less than what was shown in the gun simulation game. I'm back. Su Haokol held a pile of game coins and ran back from the counter. Then, Su Haokol divided the game coins equally among everyone. There were quite a few people standing in front of the gun-emulating game console. Because this game console was a new simulation game, even the guns were about the same weight as real guns. Although they were shooting at the big screen, the effect was quite similar to a real gun. The students of this era all wanted to try their hand at a gun, so there were a lot of people here to watch the shooting. There were also a lot of people playing this shooting game. Hey, it seems like we have to wait. There are too many people waiting to play the gun simulation game. Su Haokol touched his head and said. Boys were passionate about guns and racing, but girls were different. So in the group, except for Yunjian, the other girls all went to play other games. For example, the claw machine, which was suitable for girls to play. At this time, in front of the gun simulation game, a group of young people shouted, "Wow!" They saw a man in his 20s standing in front of the gun simulation game. The man put away his gun and showed a triumphant smile. This gun game was to shoot at the target on the screen with a gun. Of course, this gun didn't have bullets, but it gave people a visual feeling of hitting the target on the screen. And besides the fact that there were no bullets, whether it was the feel of the gun or the simulation, it was first class. So when this game was released, it attracted a lot of young people who liked to play with guns. Wow, Brother Lei is amazing. No wonder he has touched a real gun. He knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. A boy standing not far away bragged to the man holding the gun. It was as if he was afraid that people didn't know that this man in his 20s had touched a real gun. Sure enough, when they heard that the man called Brother Lei had touched a real gun, the surrounding people were so surprised that they gasped. Now, Brother Lei was even more proud of himself. This is nothing. You haven't touched a real gun. There is a difference between a real gun and a toy gun. Brother Lei boasted. He was so proud that his nose was almost higher than his eyes. Are you done playing? Can you move aside if you are done? Su Haokol saw that Brother Lei's group had finished playing and didn't move aside, so he went forward and asked. At this moment, Brother Lei, who was still under everyone's admiring gazes, glared at Su Haokol fiercely. Where did you King brat come from? How dare you snatch my game console? Brother Lei clenched his fists and bumped them together. He looked like he was about to fight and showed off. He was very proud. It was as if he was saying, if you say one more word, I will beat you up. Su Haokol opened his mouth. He had only asked one question, but Brother Lei was already angry. Just when he was about to reply, Yun Jian spoke first and directly attacked his back. You only knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. Your shooting moves are flashy and extremely gaudy. You should move aside. Everyone was stunned. They saw Yun Jian criticizing Brother Lei word by word. Every word she said hit his weak spot. Brother Lei's expression became worse. Chapter 97. Brother Lei's elder brother was a soldier in the army, so he was equipped with a pistol. Brother Lei had touched a real gun before, so he thought he was great. Especially when he was playing this kind of shooting game, he felt that he was already standing at the top, looking down on a group of kids who had never touched a real gun before. It was as if he had taken a big step forward. Moreover, this gun simulation game console had just been released. It was already very impressive that Brother Lei could hit 32 moving targets on the big screen in 1 minute. This was already the highest record in the history of this gun-playing game. However, just as Brother Lei was proudly bragging to his friends, Yun Jian suddenly interrupted, pointing at the part where he thought he was good, and degrading him to the point that he was worthless. How could Brother Lei take it? He didn't care whether Yun Jian was a girl or not. He shouted back at Yun Jian, where did you King brats come from? Do you know who I am? How dare you fight with me for the game? TSK, you must be tired of living, right? After shouting a few words, Brother Lei pointed his finger at Yun Jian fiercely, CK. Do you think I need a little kid like you to tell me what to do with my shooting skills? Come and do it if you dare. Brother Lei often hung out at the arcade, and he was also a gangster in society. However, he was good at playing games, so he was respectfully called the King of Games by the people in this circle. Therefore, Brother Lei subconsciously thought that he was the king of the gaming circle. As long as it was a game that he had played, he would always be the one who set the highest record. That was why he dared to say something like, "Come at me if you can," to Yun Jian so brazenly. He didn't believe that this little girl who was still wet behind the ears could beat him. The few boys in Yun Yi's class saw the situation, and they all looked worried. They didn't expect that Su Haokol and Yun Jian would fight with them as soon as they called the arcade. More importantly, Brother Lei looked ferocious. He didn't look like someone to be trifled with. What should he do now? At this moment, Yun Jian grinned. She was not intimidated by Brother Lei's ferocious look at all. Instead, she curled her lips and smiled at Brother Lei in disdain. All right, I'll do it. Move aside. Not only was Yun Jian not frightened by Brother Lei, but she was also going to greet him. Everyone on Brother Lei's side was stunned. Brother Lei was also stunned. He looked at Yun Jian again. He saw that Yun Jian was dressed in clean clothes. Although it looked like it was bought from a street stall, from her eyes and temperament, he could see a trace of extraordinariness. Was it an illusion? Brother Lei shook his head. She was just a little girl who liked to flaunt her superiority. Come, come, come. I'll let you do it. Little brat, it's not that I want to bully you, but just based on what you said just now, if you don't hit as many targets as I do this round, then you better strip naked and kneel in front of my brothers. Humph. Brother Lei growled in exasperation and threatened. Xiao Jian, don't. Yunyi panicked. She panicked when she saw her younger sister getting into a fight with Brother Lei, who was obviously a hooligan. These hooligans are capable of doing anything. Before Yunyi could shout, however, she was held back by Su Haokol. Believe your younger sister. Don't you want to see your younger sister's limit? Su Haokol told Yunyi softly, looking at Yun Jian. This simulation game console could test a person's marksmanship, which was why Su Haokol wanted to lure Yun Jian here. He wanted to know how good Yun Jian's marksmanship was since she could kill a sniper instead. Yun Jian smiled in a way that sent chills down one's spine. She told Brother Lei faintly, I'll cripple one of your hands after I win. She would not forgive anyone who insulted her verbally. How arrogant. Chapter 98. Brother Lei smirked deviously, his gaze already scanning Yun Jian from head to toe as if he was certain that Yun Jian would lose and was already fantasizing about her naked body. Then we'll talk about it after you win me. Brother Lei glanced at Yun Jian condescendingly with a smirk. How could Brother Lei take Yun Jian's threat seriously? Even Brother Lei's buddies would not take Yun Jian's words seriously. What a joke. How could Brother Lei lose to an underage girl? Therefore, they could not wait to see Yun Jian lose and beg for mercy, only to be stripped naked by them. Brother Lei and his gang had done this many times. They were all gangsters in the society. What had they not done before? They would snatch any woman they fancied. If they could not get their hands on her, they would rape her, drug her, and force themselves on her. Did they not subdue her in the end? Everyone knew that Yun Jian was pretty. In fact, when Yun Jian and Brother Lei were at loggerheads in the beginning, Brother Lei's buddies had been eyeing Yun Jian. That was why Yunyi was anxious. How could he pretend that he did not know that his younger sister was being eyed around by Brother Lei and his gang? Come on, little girl. Why aren't you here yet? Don't tell me you're too scared to come. One of Brother Lei's buddies could not help urging when he saw that Yun Jian had yet to go to the game console. Yun Jian smirked coldly and tossed a small pile of tokens in her palm into the air before catching them handsomely. She then took out another token with her other hand and passed the rest to Yunyi. Brother, hold these for me, Yun Jian told Yunyi. Xiao Jian, don't force yourself. Yunyi bit his lip and said worriedly. Although Yun Jian had killed the sniper that day, as her brother, he was still worried about his sister. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Her heart felt warm. It felt good to have someone backing him up. Before Yun Jian went over to the console, she turned her head to look at Su Haokol, revealing a row of white and clean front teeth. Watch carefully. After saying that, Yun Jian walked towards the game console. Su Haojia, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. Yun Jian actually knew why he brought her here? Su Haokol just whispered to Yunyi, but he didn't expect that Yun Jian already knew. That was why she told him, watch carefully, before she left. Su Haokol felt his cheeks heat up at once, feeling embarrassed to be exposed by Yun Jian. Come to think of it, it was no big deal. He just wanted to know how good her marksmanship was. There was nothing wrong with that. While Su Haokol was thinking about it, Yun Jian was not in a hurry to insert the game token. Instead, she lifted the toy sniper rifle in front of her and weighed it in her hand. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. What was she doing? Yun Jian was checking the difference between the game's sniper rifle's configuration and a real one. She weighed the coin in her hand for a moment before stuffing it into the slot of the game console. A string of English words appeared on the screen of the game console. The translated Chinese subtitles read, "The shooting battle begins." The game had begun. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Everyone held their breaths. Then, on the screen of the console, the targets moved from the side. As the target moved, a series of neat and orderly gunshots were heard from the speakers of the game console. Chapter 99. Everyone knew how to hold the imitation gun and pull the trigger with one hand to fire the bullets. This was especially true for this kind of simulation game. Usually, players could pull the trigger and fire at the big screen at will. There was also a chance of hitting the target. To put it bluntly, even a fool could do such a simple operation. Unless someone was so stupid that they didn't even know where to pull the trigger. However, whether or not the bullets could hit the moving targets on the big screen was another matter altogether. When Yun Jian pulled the trigger, she was like an ordinary person who kept shooting at the big screen. This wasn't a big deal. However, what caught everyone's attention was the bang 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 sound of the bullets being fired. Every time there was a sound, a target was hit. A series of fast-moving targets that no one would be able to shoot in time were all hit by Yun Jian's gun without missing a single one. If an ordinary person were to shoot at the targets that appeared one after another, it was estimated that by the time they aimed at the target on the left and shot the target on the left, the targets on the right would have already disappeared. In other words, they would have failed to shoot and missed the targets. Despite that, it was as if Yun Jian had already known the locations of the targets that appeared one after another with each shot. Every shot hit a target accurately. She actually reached the point where she didn't miss a single target. 30, 31, 32, 33. She has already hit 33 targets. Someone shouted out uncontrollably. His whole body was boiling with excitement. At this time, less than 10 seconds had passed since the 1-minute shooting competition started. In less than 10 seconds, Yun Jian had already hit 33 targets and successfully overtaken Brother Lei. And now, she was still shooting. God! Since Yun Jian started shooting, everyone had been disdainful at the beginning. Then, they were suddenly surprised, and now they were all pale with fright. Even some people behind couldn't help but start shouting and shouting. Brother Lei's face was very ugly. If he could still be said to be able to look down on Yun Jian a few seconds ago, then his expression now was as if he had been beaten up. He was so embarrassed. Yin Yi's emotions started to fluctuate. At this time, Su Haokol was forcefully suppressing his emotions and the shock that was about to burst out. He trembled as he counted the targets on the big screen that were shot by Yun Jian one by one. No matter how exaggerated the emotions of the people around her were, the girl who was kneeling in front of the game console with one leg in a standard shooting position was not affected at all. Her finger quickly pulled the trigger, sweeping the targets on the big screen with the speed of a rain of bullets. When the game ended, the 4 big words and a string of numbers that appeared on the screen brought everyone's emotions to the climax. On the big screen, 6 big red words popped out. Highest record. Below the words in white letters, 203. Yun Jian hit 203 targets in 1 minute. Oh my God. Did I see it wrong? Guns to play to shoot. This girl is so cool. Did you see her shooting posture just now? She's so cool. Some of the boys who were naturally fond of guns almost jumped up in excitement when they saw this scene. Brother Lei, who had shot 32 targets in 1 minute, was already very good. But what about Yun Jian? She had hit 203 targets in 1 minute. How could they compete with such results? Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter. Didn't you see that? She didn't miss a single bullet just now. This girl must be a sharpshooter. The audience was in an uproar, which even attracted the attention of a group of people who were playing other games. At this time, Yun Jian, who had gently put down the imitation gun in her hand, stood up and walked towards Brother Lei with a smile. Chapter 100. Brother Lei thought that Yun Jian was joking. Who would have thought that she really wanted to cripple his hand? Was she joking? No matter what, Brother Lei and his gang were all ruffians and gangsters in the society. Fighting with others was something that they often did. Brother Lei had planned to stop today. After all, he was in the wrong. However, Yun Jian dared to say that. Hence, out of his pride as a man, Brother Lei's expression changed. He looked at Yun Jian and scolded, F***ck, whose hand do you want to cripple? Just based on a bunch of scrawny little brats like you? You want to fight, right? Was there going to be a gang fight? Hearing that Brother Lei was angry, some of the people who were watching the show were afraid of being implicated. They quickly took a few steps back. It was true that the young lady had won, but Brother Lei and his gang were not people who kept their word. More importantly, Brother Lei's group of brothers had never lost to anyone in a fight. Moreover, Brother Lei had someone backing him up. Rumor had it that Brother Lei had brought a group of people who called themselves brothers and beat up a person until he was completely paralyzed and could not take care of himself for the rest of his life. Later, although this group of people was taken away by the police, they were released safely in less than half a day. What else could it be other than having someone backing him up? Someone kindly reminded Yun Jian, "Young lady, hurry up and leave. Don't force yourself." Brother Lei obviously heard the murmurs of the people around him. He seemed to be in a better position. His pair of malicious eyes stared at Yun Jian's face. Then, he smiled evilly and said, "But, if you apologize to me and accompany me tonight, I will forgive you." The way he addressed himself as brother made Yun Jian feel even more disgusted with Brother Lei and his gang. "I only want one of your hands." Yun Jian smiled. Although there was a smile on her face, it was a fake one. What? Brother Lei seemed to have not heard what Yun Jian said. He was shocked again. He thought to himself that this young girl must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's guts. He had given her face, but not only did she not back down, she even wanted to confront him head-on. Su Hao Cole, who was watching from the side, didn't say anything. He didn't want to help Yun Jian either. He was the son of Longmen City's mafia boss. If this identity was revealed, Brother Lei and the rest could only beg for mercy. However, Su Hao Cole narrowed his eyes and watched. He wanted to know how Yun Jian would deal with this matter. Yun Yi was unable to stand in front of Yun Jian due to Su Hao Cole's tug, but he knew that Zhou would definitely step in if Xiao Jian did not have the ability to handle Brother Lei and his gang, so he was less worried. "Io, this young lady's marksmanship is accurate, but isn't she digging her own grave by challenging Brother Lei?" The people around saw this and couldn't help but mutter. Such a good girl is going to be defiled by Brother Lei. The surrounding crowd avoided Brother Lei's ears and made a commotion. So what if Yun Jian was a sharpshooter? To them, even if she was a sharpshooter, she would still be in trouble when she went up against a rascal like Brother Lei. Left hand. Yun Jian studied Brother Lei, not intimidated by his intimidating aura at all. What? Brother Lei was even more confused. It was not only Brother Lei who was confused, everyone else was equally confused. What left hand? Yun Jian had already taken 2 large strides toward Brother Lei. Then, her movements were simple and extremely fast. Before Brother Lei and his gang could react, Yun Jian's hand was as nimble as a snake as it coiled around Brother Lei's left wrist. Crack. There was a crisp sound of bone breaking. Before Brother Lei could react, Yun Jian was already in front of him and his left arm was broken by Yun Jian. Excruciating pain shot through his body as Brother Lei cried out in agony. "Ah! Ah! My hand! Ah!" The entire process took less than 3 seconds. The group was stunned as their gazes landed on the devil who was all smiles but could break a person's arm with a smile. The girl grinned innocently and said, he pointed at me with his left hand just now. Chapter 101. The crowd, who had thought that Yun Jian was a pretty, thin, and weak girl, looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Their eyes were wide open. How was this girl thin and weak? Just because Brother Lei pointed his finger at her, she crippled one of his hands. Such a domineering way of doing things made everyone extremely shocked. She was a demon that was 10 times scarier than Brother Lei. Yun Jian narrowed her beautiful eyes. She glanced sideways at Brother Lei and his gang, who were staring at her. She smirked and said provocatively, "Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to roll on the ground like him?" As she spoke, she pointed at Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and smiled like a flower. When Brother Lei's buddies heard what Yun Jian said, and with Brother Lei as a precedent, they felt chills running down their spines when they looked at Yun Jian's smirk again. How would they dare to stay there? Hence, the group of people lifted Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and disappeared from the spot at lightning speed. The 2 men who carried Brother Lei out of the room were almost tripped by the door because they were in a hurry. They managed to dodge the door and ran faster than a monkey. The group of people who were watching the show laughed loudly. Who would have thought that Brother Lei and his gang would be the ones who ran away in the end? Yun Jian's eyes lit up. She turned to look at Yun Yi and the rest and asked, "Do you guys still want to play games?" Everyone instantly shook their heads like waves. What a joke. With a godly sharpshooter like Yun Jian as a foil, wouldn't they be looking for trouble and deliberately embarrassing themselves if they went to play games? However, the group of people didn't expect that Yun Yi's sister was not only good at shooting, but she was also so cool when she beat people up. When Yun Jian broke Brother Lei's wrist just now, no one saw clearly how she did it. After bidding farewell to Su Hao Cole and the rest, Yun Jian and Yun Yi were walking back to the villa. It was almost 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The night breeze blew past. As Yun Yi had given his jacket to Yun Jian, he was shivering in his short-sleeved shirt. "Brother, I just exercised. My whole body is warm now. You can wear this jacket yourself." Yun Jian took off his jacket and returned it to Yun Yi. She didn't allow Yun Yi to say anything else. Yun Yi opened his mouth, his handsome lips breaking into a smile as his thin lips brushed lightly. His sister was concerned about him. How could he reject his sister's good intentions? Hence, Yun Yi hurriedly put his jacket back on. When they returned to the villa, the lights were still on, the house was still on the house. Dong Wan was an official, so he rarely returned home. Sometimes, he would even stay out all night because he was busy. Her son, on the other hand, had been entrusted to a teacher in an aristocratic school, so she was rarely home. Qin Yiru, on the other hand, had gotten a job as a waitress in a restaurant. Her salary was much higher than when she was working in a textile factory. In comparison, a waitress job only required her to carry the dishes and clear the table. It was just that she got off work later, around 10:30 p.m. After all, Qin Yiru did not have a degree, so Dong Wan could only arrange for her to work in a place like this. Now that Yun Jian and his family were staying at Dong Ruan's place, it added to the liveliness of the house. "Xiao Jian, I'm going back to my room to rest first. I'll be back in school tomorrow morning. It's our monthly exam in a few days. I can only calm down by revising in school," Yun Yi said to Yun Jian once he reached home and went upstairs to rest. He was serious in his studies and went upstairs to rest. Not long after Yun Yi left, a tall figure came down from upstairs. It was none other than Ce. It was only then that Yun Jian remembered that she had yet to return the car she borrowed from him. Just as she was about to explain, Ce's beautiful lips beat her to it. He asked first instead of asking about the car's whereabouts, "You just came back?" Ce frowned slightly when he saw Yun Jian's bare arms. The short sleeves could not hide the coldness on her arms. Ce took off his jacket and tossed it to Yun Jian, saying coldly, "It's cold at night and you're wearing so little. My auntie will blame me if you catch a cold." As he spoke, He tilted his chiseled face slightly. The last sentence was obviously made up by him. Chapter 102. Yunjian was dumbfounded. She paused and caught the jacket Ce tossed to her. She hesitated before putting it on slowly and said blankly, "I've left your car with my friend. I'll return it to you tomorrow." Ce nodded and glanced at Yunjian with his deep gaze before turning away. Without even a word of farewell, his tall and handsome figure disappeared from Yunjian's sight. Yunjian was stunned again. She pressed her dry lips together and grinned. The next morning, Yunjian had Snake Lizard drive Ce's Lamborghini back and returned it to him along with the car keys. Yunjian then went out with Snake Lizard. She had just settled down in Longmen City, but she had decided to start a business in Longmen City a long time ago. Yunjian had always been a person who took responsibility for her actions. Since she had said it, she would do it without any hesitation. Zhang Jifan and the rest had been brought to Longmen City by Yunjian before Yunjian came. They were even staying in a rented house in Longmen City. Of course, all of this was secretly arranged by Yunjian. Qin Yiru and Yun Yi were completely unaware of it. Country Z's economy had just taken off and the people's lives were gradually moving from poverty to prosperity. In the past, people used to travel on foot, but in this era, it was gradually being replaced by vehicles like bicycles and motorcycles. A vehicle like a car could only be bought by a few wealthy families. However, as the times changed, cars would be brought to the world stage sooner or later and replace them as the most convenient means of transportation. In other words, every household would be able to afford a car one day. Of course, all of this was inferred by Yunjian based on the current situation and business trends. She had also fact-checked it. Places like Europe and America that were economically advanced and had a high standard of living were gradually developing in this direction. In spite of this, it was proven that Yunjian's inference was accurate. Of course, this was a story for another time. Yunjian planned to start a car marketing company. The idea might seem absurd. She was just an underage girl who was not even 18 years old, yet she wanted to start a car store. However, it was undeniable that starting a company required investment and Yunjian had the money. She had channels to import cars from home and abroad as well. When Yunjian told Zhang Jifan and the rest about her idea, Zhang Jifan and the rest felt their eyelids twitch and they almost fainted from shock. "What? You want to start a car company?" Zhang Jifan stuttered as he looked at Yunjian in shock and fear. In this era, anyone who owned a motorbike at home could use it to look cool. A car was simply a symbol of the rich. What's more, to run such a car company, the number of cars needed was more than just a few. Secondly, they needed to have working capital. Secondly, they needed to go through the application process and they needed to have a sales store. These were all essential procedures. Yunjian nodded and leaned her slender legs against the corner of the table. She smiled naturally at Zhang Jifan and said, "I've said that you don't need to worry about the company's investment. What you need to do is to manage this company for me." How could she not make money when there was a chance for her to make it? Only with investment could she make a profit. She, Yunjian, would never do a losing business. "Me?" Zhang Jifan pointed at himself and was stunned again. "It's you." Yunjian narrowed her eyes and wiped her red lips. "And this company will be registered under your name." After a pause, Yunjian exuded a confident glow. Zhang Jifan and the rest could not help but look at her in a new light. "The name of the new company will be..." Yunjian raised her eyes slightly and looked ahead with a smile. "New start. A new life, a new start." Chapter 103. Zhang Jifan was stupefied. He did not expect Yunjian to trust him so much. Yunjian was fully responsible for the investment, so he did not have to worry about the company's startup. However, he would still have to put his name on the company when it was registered. Such a good thing was hard to come by even in 8 lifetimes. At the same time, Zhang Jifan was certain of one thing. Whether he could walk this path with Yun Jian or not, he would not be disloyal. Sister Jian, don't worry. I, Zhang Jifan, guarantee you that I'll do my best. Zhang Jifan promised Yun Jian heavily. Ever since they were taken in by Yun Jian that day, Zhang Jifan and his buddies had regarded Yun Jian as their boss and called her Sister Jian. If Zhang Jifan became the company's leader, his buddies would naturally be the company's pioneers as well. The buddies looked at Yun Jian passionately and promised in unison, Sister Jian, we promise that we won't be disloyal. We swear to follow you to the end. Yun Jian nodded with a smile and told Zhang Jifan subtly, send in the company's application form as soon as possible. Also, keep an eye out for the storefront and let me know when you find it. You don't have to worry about anything else. Zhang Jifan nodded. Coming out of the rented apartment where Zhang Jifan and his buddies stayed, Yun Jian and Snake Lizard walked on the road. You're still as greedy for money as before. You own a few major international corporations but you still don't let go of any chance to earn money, Snake Lizard walked beside Yun Jian and teased Yun Jian when she did not say anything just now. Yun Jian suddenly grinned and glanced at Snake Lizard from the corner of her eyes with a hint of teenage innocence. If one doesn't love money, the devil takes the hindmost. Who can say no to money? Snake Lizard was a rather aloof person. Hearing Yun Jian's words, she could not help smiling but keep quiet. On Monday, Yun Jian returned to school. Running a company couldn't be rushed, especially when it came to the application process. At this moment, Yun Jian was already sitting in class. She twirled the black pen in her hand in boredom and looked around leisurely. Once class ended, the 2 clowns, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng, came running to Yun Jian. Hey, master, it's been so many days. You should teach your disciples some powerful skills, right? Ah, just like that move of yours last time. You didn't even need to look at the ground to know that I was going to hook you with my leg, and you even had the time to kick me back. That move is really cool. Zhang Xiaofeng's handsome face moved closer, and he said to Yun Jian with admiration. Chen Sini pushed Zhang Xiaofeng away and said to Yun Jian with a smile, don't mind him. Jian, let's talk among ourselves. Since Yun Jian transferred to Class A of E High School, there had been plenty of people who tried to pick on her, but they were all blocked by Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini, so she had been living an easy life. Even if she did not look for trouble herself, sometimes, trouble would come knocking on her door. Yun Jian noticed a heated gaze in the classroom that had been staring at her for a long time, but she pretended not to see it. It was just that the owner of the gaze could not hold it in anymore as he walked over to Yun Jian. Lu Rongrong came over to look at Yun Jian and asked in annoyance, hey, who was the person who came to pick you up last Friday? It was not Lu Rongrong's fault for asking. Siyi's looks were too alluring. His handsome face was bound to mesmerize many girls. Yun Jian looked up at Lu Rongrong before lowering her gaze to meet Chen Sini's eyes, ignoring her. Chapter 104 F***CK, Lu Rongrong, what do you mean by this? Zhang Xiaofeng was the first to stand up for Yun Jian when he saw Lu Rongrong throwing her weight around in front of his master. That's right. What's wrong with my Jian being picked up after school? What does it have to do with you? Why should I tell you? Who do you think you are? Chen Sini scolded Lu Rongrong before Zhang Xiaofeng could. Lu Rongrong had always been a spoiled brat. She was flashy but not practical. She pointed at Chen Sini angrily and opened her mouth. However, she stomped her feet and could not say anything. In the end, she snorted and ran away. Yun Jian could not help grinning at the sight. The morning sun shone in through the window and refracted on Yun Jian's rosy cheeks, making her feel warmer and more comfortable. It had been a long time since she felt so comfortable. Every time someone tried to pick a fight in school, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng would chase them away with their sharp tongues like this. They were adorable. Lu Rongrong really thinks she's some spoiled brat. What's she being so cocky for? How shameless. Chen Sini was the first to flare up when Yun Jian was infuriated. She huffed and sat down opposite Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng chuckled dryly as well before he looked around as if he remembered something. He turned to whisper mysteriously to Yun Jian and Chen Sini, "Do you know? The black market is holding an underground tournament this Saturday. It's at Longtu Mountain not far from our school. How about it? Do you want to go and watch?" "Heh, I can guarantee that the lineup will be spectacular." To convince Yun Jian to go, Zhang Xiaofeng emphasized, "And I heard that it's a bet between the mafia boss of Longmen City and a foreigner." As a boy, Zhang Xiaofeng was especially interested in this kind of fighting competition. That was why after Yun Jian showed off her skills, he shamelessly asked to be her disciple. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows when she heard the words, mafia boss. The mafia boss was Su Haokol's father, Su Zetian. Strictly speaking, Su Zetian was a member of the Kosha mercenaries. Su Zetian wants to bet with the foreigners in a challenge tournament. Upon hearing this news, Yun Jian recalled the first time she met Snake Lizard and Su Zetian since her rebirth. Su Zetian had a favor to ask of Snake Lizard. Could this be what he was referring to? She pursed her dry lips to moisten them and said, "I'll go." Zhang Xiaofeng snickered, thinking that his words had worked, and laughed even more cheerfully. Yun Jian's lips curled into a faint smile, which made people feel as if they understood her. She was devilishly charming. Just like that, a week passed by peacefully. When she returned home from school on Friday, Yun Jian received the news that Zhang Jifan had approved the company's application. He had also asked for some connections and found a suitable store. The location of the store was great. It was big enough for cars to be displayed and the location was well connected. When the car store was opened in the future, it would not be inconspicuous due to its remote location. Since it was a new piece of land and there were many merchants who wanted to buy the store, the organizer decided to use the auction format, bidding and the highest bidder would win. The auction would be held tonight. When Yun Jian heard the news, she only told Zhang Jifan, "Get ready tonight and go to the auction with me." Chapter 105. This auction was organized by the organizers, so more than one or two shops and plots of land were up for sale. In spite of it, Yun Jian only needed the store. Because the auction was a big event, Zhang Jifan deliberately dressed himself up before going. He changed his appearance from that of a hoodlum to a suit, which made him look like a big boss. Before this, he was just a hoodlum with a loan shark. As usual, Yun Jian tied her hair into a high ponytail. She had a good foundation, so even if she didn't put on makeup, her facial features were still exquisite and delicate. Her eyelashes were long and narrow, and when she blinked, she gave people a feeling that she had a spiritual aura. She looked pure and innocent, but the slight curve of her lips made people unable to help but notice her. Before leaving, she knocked on Siyi's door next to hers. Knock, knock, knock. After 3 knocks, the door opened. When the door opened, Yun Jian smelled an elegant fragrance. It was faint, but it made her feel good. Ce appeared at the door. He was dressed in casual clothes, and his wet hair stuck to his handsome face. There was an unfathomable smile on his exquisite face. It was obvious that he had just taken a shower. "What is it?" Ce's lips curled into a beautiful curve. "What is it?" His magnetic voice was a little hoarse, but it was full of charm. Yun Jian looked at him with a smile and licked her lips. "Lend me your car again." Ce's starry eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. He turned his body slightly, and his tall body surrounded Yun Jian's thin and weak body. She could feel his breath coming from above. "My car isn't that easy to borrow." "How? Are you going to compensate me?" As he spoke, he looked at Yun Jian from head to toe with ill intentions. It had to be said that although Yunjian's body was thin and weak, she was still lean in the right places. She had developed very well, and there were signs of her curvy body. He believed that in less than 2 years, she would definitely be a great beauty who could charm a large group of people to death with just a glance. When Yunjian heard this, she smiled and glanced at Ce from the corner of her eyes. "How do you want me to make it up to you?" As she spoke, she flipped her hair and took a step closer to Ce. However, before she could even get close to Ce, Yunjian's delicate fists turned into eagle claws. She launched a sneak attack at Ce's waist. Her speed was so fast that normal people would not have expected it. Seduction was one of the essential skills of a secret agent. In her previous life, although Yunjian had never been in love with a man, and had never even been intimate with a man, she would still make use of her lust to lower the enemy's guard, and kill them in one move. She obviously did not intend to kill Ce. She only wanted to take the car keys from Ce's waist. However, Yunjian did not expect that Ce would be able to dodge her attack with a sidestep. His speed was actually faster than hers. Although Yunjian had been training her body since her rebirth, her physical strength could not be compared to her previous life. Even so, when Ce dodged her attack, Yunjian was stunned. When Ce dodged to the side, Yunjian could tell that even if she had faced him in her previous life, she would not have been able to escape unscathed. Yunjian suddenly curled her lips. She twisted her hand and threw herself into Ce's firm chest. The fresh fragrance of a young girl drifted into his nose. Ce, who had never been so intimate with a woman, was stunned. Yunjian took advantage of this moment to reach out and take the car keys from Ce's waist. She then left Ce's chest in a flash and ran far away. She could not help but turn back to leave a smile. "I'll take the car keys, thanks." As she spoke, Yunjian had already run down the stairs. Chapter 106. On the other hand, Yunjian had driven the Lamborghini to the entrance of Zhang Jifan's rental apartment and was waiting for him. When Zhang Jifan saw the Lamborghini, his eyes trembled violently. Obviously, he was shocked. There were only a few types of cars that he had seen on a daily basis. It was especially so in a developing city like Longmen City where sports cars were only affordable for the wealthy. In normal business, those who had some money would usually drive cars of brands like Santana, Honda, and Mazda. They were all cars that consumed low fuel, were affordable, and had average appearances. This era had yet to reach the era where cars were everywhere. Naturally, it was the best starting point to start a car marketing business. Therefore, when Zhang Jifan saw the modified super sports car, the Lamborghini, there was an irrepressible glint in his eyes. More than that, it was shock. "Sister Jian, where did you get this car?" After Zhang Jifan got into the car, he was still stiff, not daring to touch anything in the car, afraid that he would break something. In the end, he could not help asking Yunjian. "I borrowed it." Yunjian narrowed her eyes and did not explain further. She then started the engine and sped away under Zhang Jifan's horrified gaze. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the auction. The auction was coordinated and organized by various major sponsors. It was a grand occasion and not just anyone could enter. If one did not dress appropriately, they would not even be able to enter the auction. Yunjian did not have an invitation, so she drove the Lamborghini to show her status. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to enter the auction venue. How would he be able to buy that piece of land and open a car dealership? Of course, Yunjian would not allow the possibility of being stopped at the entrance. The auction was held in the best location in Longmen City, the Fashion Building. At the moment, at the entrance of the Fashion Building, Yunjian drove the black Lamborghini and drifted past the entrance before she slammed on the brakes and parked in front of the building. She got out of the car and walked into the building with Zhang Jifan. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. The appearance of the Lamborghini caused an uproar among the crowd. In this era, it was already very good to be able to drive a car. Although those who came to attend the auction today were wealthy and respectable bosses who stood at the pinnacle of Longmen City, it was rare to find someone who could afford a sports car. This Bolangini was a modified supercar, and it was an international limited edition. There were only a few of them in the world. Many of the people present knew about this car, but they had never had the chance to see it in real life. Now that they saw it, they couldn't help but be stunned. Which big shot had come to Longmen City? However, when Yun Jian got out of the driver's seat of the Bolangini, everyone gasped. Heavens! Could it be that this super sports car belonged to a young girl who hadn't even reached 18 yet? At this time, Yun Jian had been respectfully invited in by the receptionist at the entrance of the fashion building. The auction had yet to begin, but the people standing around were all important figures in the business world or the government. All of them were using such an occasion to find people who could get along well with them. Officials protecting each other and businessmen benefiting each other had already become a social trend. Yun Jian was particularly eye-catching standing here because the people standing here were either mature women or mature men who were all around middle-aged. She was the only one who was young. There was only one reason why the people around her were looking at her. One must have some status to enter the auction or know someone important to be brought in. The fact that this young girl could enter meant that she was somewhat capable. Yun Jian? Under everyone's gaze, an untimely low male voice suddenly rang. Turning, Yun Jian saw a face that was both unfamiliar and familiar at the same time. Zhang Taijun? Her uncle and name? She had met him once when Su Haokol was assassinated by a sniper the other day. Chapter 107. The moment Zhang Taijun saw Yun Jian, he was really stunned. He didn't have a deep impression of Yun Jian. In the past, Yun Jian was always soft and weak. Even if she was bullied, she wouldn't protest. But that day when he met Yun Jian at the hotel, she was the first to react. She pushed a few people away and dodged the sniper's bullet. At that time, Zhang Taijun was extremely shocked and frightened. Of course, at that time, he was afraid of the sniper and ran away, so he didn't have time to care about Yun Jian. Today, he was able to enter the auction venue because Zhang Taijun pulled a lot of strings to squeeze into the venue. What he did not expect, however, was that Yun Jian was here as well. She actually had a way to sneak in here. Not just anyone could enter the auction hall. With Yun Jian's identity and status, she didn't have the ability to enter this place at all. Yun Jian glanced at Zhang Taijun from the corner of her eyes and didn't say anything. In her impression, this nominal uncle of hers didn't care about her family. Moreover, when relatives gathered for dinner, he would show off in front of her family. After all, among the group of relatives, Zhang Taijun was more successful. He started his own business from scratch and finally became a small boss. Among the group of relatives and friends, he felt that he was different and had a sense of superiority. When Qin Yiru borrowed money from his family, Zhang Taijun was very embarrassed and fanned the flames. He was very narrow-minded. Yun Jian, why are you here? Although Zhang Taijun and Yun Jian were relatives, they weren't close. He even called her by her full name. Zhang Taijun obviously didn't believe that Yun Jian had the ability to enter such a high-end venue. He directly assumed that Yun Jian had sneaked in from some small corner of the fashion building. His tone wasn't very polite. And without waiting for Yun Jian to reply, Zhang Taijun frowned and continued to shout at Yun Jian in the tone of an elder, "There's going to be an auction here. The auction is about to start. How did you sneak in here? You should be more sensible. You have to know your limits even though you're already so old. This is not a place where you can come and go as you please. If there's nothing else, then hurry up and leave." He scolded Yun Jian for a while, but Zhang Taijun wanted her to leave as soon as possible. This was not a place for a child like her. Zhang Jifan, who was standing behind Yun Jian, pursed his lips and rolled his eyes at Zhang Taijun in disdain. Yun Jian raised her brow and didn't argue with Zhang Taijun. Since Zhang Taijun would also appear at the auction, some things could no longer be hidden. She would never give up the store that she had set her eyes on because of some irrelevant people or things. This was not her style. Yun Jian's pure pink cheeks became moist as she revealed a charming and beautiful smile. She said to Zhang Taijun, "I'm here to participate in the auction." "Nonsense." Zhang Tiejun's face sank. His face turned gloomy. "This is not a place where a child like you should come to. Hurry up and leave before the auction starts." Just as Zhang Taijun said this, the middle-aged man standing next to Zhang Taijun tugged at Zhang Tiejun's coat and pointed at the door. A group of people looked towards the door. They saw a group of middle-aged men in suits walking in from outside the door. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. Standing at the front was Mayor Gu, whom Yun Jian had met at Su Haokol's birthday party. At this moment, Mayor Gu was surrounded by a large group of people who were fawning over him. The moment Zhang Taijun saw Mayor Gu, he couldn't care less about Yun Jian. He suppressed his emotions and walked towards Mayor Gu with the middle-aged man who had tugged at his coat just now. This was the reason why Zhang Taijun had tried so hard to sneak into the auction. He had been waiting for Mayor Gu. Naturally, he had something to ask of Mayor Gu. Mayor Gu, who was surrounded by a group of people, turned his head and accidentally saw Yun Jian, who was particularly eye-catching. Mayor Gu pushed through the crowd and walked over. Seeing that Mayor Gu had actually seen him, Zhang Taijun stood still and didn't dare to lift his feet. He held his breath. Mayor Gu had actually noticed him? Zhang Taijun suddenly looked like he was flattered. When Mayor Gu brushed past him to greet Yun Jian, however, Zhang Taijun felt like he had been struck by a bolt of lightning on a sunny day. Chapter 108. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City and held the highest position in the city. Under normal circumstances, only others would try to curry favor with him. Mayor Gu himself didn't like the bribery between bureaucrats, so he didn't pay much attention to others. What did they see today? Mayor Gu personally greeting and befriending a teenage girl? Who was this girl? How could Mayor Gu value her so much? Zhang Taijun watched the scene unfolding before him with a face that looked like he had eaten dog poop. Yun Jian knew Mayor Gu. More importantly, Mayor Gu seemed to be friendly to Yun Jian. He was shocked and regretful. Recalling what he had said just now, he felt like he was showing off in front of an expert. Yun Jian was not reserved like others and she faced Mayor Gu. She smiled easily and looked natural as she pressed her lips together and said, "Yes, what a coincidence. It is. Girl, are you here for the auction too? Do you want to go into the hall with me now?" Mayor Gu invited with a squint. Mayor Gu might look aloof from worldly affairs, but he had been in the government for so many years and had successfully held the mayor's position for so many years. Other things aside, he had the ability to judge people. Despite her young age, Mayor Gu had to pay attention to her based on this fact alone. Even the mafia boss had to bow down to Yun Jian. In short, even Snake Lizard had to listen to Yun Jian. Was Yun Jian really just an ordinary girl? Mayor Gu rationally chose to stand with Yun Jian. His instinct told him that this girl was not ordinary. When the crowd heard Mayor Gu's invitation to Yun Jian, there was another uproar. Yun Jian would not reject having Mayor Gu leading the team. It would save her a lot of trouble. She nodded and said, "All right." Yun Jian then gestured to Zhang Jifan, indicating for him to enter the hall behind her. Zhang Jifan was dumbfounded. He had never thought that an insignificant person like him would be invited by Mayor Gu one day. This was all thanks to Yun Jian. Just as Yun Jian and Mayor Gu were about to enter the auction hall, Zhang Tiejun's shameless voice rang out, "Wait." Zhang Taijun ran over and stopped in front of Mayor Gu. Although he didn't understand why Mayor Gu knew Yun Jian and valued her so much, now was not the time to talk about it. Mayor Gu, hello. I'm Xiao Jian's uncle, you can call me Xiao Zhang." As Zhang Taijun spoke, he pointed out his relationship with Yun Jian. Then he continued, "It's like this. My friend and I want to apply for approval for our recent cooperation. Zhang Taijun wanted to make use of Yun Jian's relationship to talk to Mayor Gu, so that he could finish his vicious task. But before he could finish speaking, Yun Jian beat him to it. Yun Jian watched as Mayor Gu introduced Zhang Taijun word by word. She smiled and said, "He is indeed my mother's sister's husband." There was an inexplicable estrangement in his words. That one sentence sealed Zhang Taijun's fate. Mayor Gu understood what Yun Jian meant. If they were relatives, how could they be close if they did not even address each other as uncle? Mayor Gu waved his hand. Since Zhang Taijun was not someone Yun Jian cared about, what right did he have to give him face? Hey, let's talk next time. I have something urgent to discuss with the girl. Mayor Gu waved at Zhang Taijun. Then, he followed Yun Jian into the auction hall. Only Zhang Taijun, who was exasperated, was left with a sour expression. There was only one word left in his mind: it's over. Chapter 109. Even so, Zhang Taijun still shamelessly followed the crowd into the auction hall. A person like Zhang Taijun naturally wouldn't be here to buy properties or shops. He was just here to join in the fun, and his target today was only Mayor Gu. However, what happened next was completely unexpected. Yun Jian was already sitting in the VIP seats in the auction hall with Mayor Gu. She was only qualified to sit in the VIP seats because she was accompanied by Mayor Gu. Zhang Jifan was flattered. He sat in the VIP seats and forcefully suppressed his nervous emotions that were about to burst out. He pretended to be calm, but in fact, he was so excited that he couldn't express it with words. When the guests were all seated, the auction officially began. The host of the auction this time was an enchanting woman. This woman swayed her butt, showing off her pair of white and slender legs that were exposed. She stood in the middle of the host. Honorable guests, greetings to you all. I'm the host of this auction. You can call me Big Sisterly. Long story short, let's get to the main topic. This auction will still follow the old rules. All the auction locations will be quoted after the auction starts, and the old rule of the highest bidder wins. Big Sisterly swayed her but as she walked. She used a pleasant voice to say beautiful words, but it was enough to make some of the men present addicted to the sight. Fortunately, Big Sisterly wasn't here to show off. After a few words, the auction officially began. At the beginning of the auction, the shops that were sold at a cheaper price and were not in a good location. Yun Jian naturally wasn't interested. Mayor Gu, on the other hand, was sizing her up all the time. He even asked a few irrelevant questions from time to time. Little girl, where did you go to school? Yun Jian continued to smile and replied him, Dragon Gate No. 1 High School. Oh. Mayor Gu made a strange sound and laughed. He said to Yun Jian, then we're really fated. My grandson is also studying at Longmen No. 1 Middle School. I don't know if you've heard of that brat's name. At this point, Mayor Gu did not care whether Yun Jian was interested in this matter or not. He directly introduced his grandson to Yun Jian. There was a hint of pride in his tone, but also a hint of helplessness. That brat is called Gu Heng. If you meet him in No. 1 Middle School, don't go easy on him in the future. Teach him a good lesson for me. From Mayor Gu's tone, it was obvious that he wanted to build a good relationship with Yun Jian. Zhang Jifan, who sat beside Yun Jian, was stupefied once more when he heard that a prominent figure like Mayor Gu was trying to curry favor with them. Yun Jian, she had such great ability. Yun Jian merely curled her lips into a faint smile and did not directly reply to Mayor Gu's words. She was stunned. Mayor Gu had mentioned his grandson and even asked her to teach him a lesson the next time she met him, not to be soft-hearted. It was really strange to have a grandfather like Mayor Gu. Suddenly, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at the auction stage. She pursed her lips slightly and spat out a line of words from her red lips. It's finally here. The area that she was preparing to bid on was finally being auctioned off. Mayor Gu was stunned. What? However, the latter half of Yunjian's sentence shocked Mayor Gu for a long time. Yunjian leaned back in her seat lazily and looked at Sister Li, who was speaking eloquently on the auction stage. Her eyes did not look at Mayor Gu. I want this shop. Mayor Gu followed Yunjian's gaze and listened to Sister Li's explanation. It was a very good area and the price was very high. Ordinary people could not afford this piece of land. However, from Yunjian's tone, she wanted to bid for this area. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.